meeting on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024, in council chambers, Sparta Township Municipal Building, 65 Main Street, Sparta, New Jersey. The time is 7:03 p.m. All council meetings are now live streamed and can be viewed at the following link, www.youtube.com/SpartaTWP/streams. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the public and press on January 5th, 2024 by delivering to the press and posting on the township website a copy of the notice. May we have roll call, please?
Councilman Hertzberg.
Here.
Councilwoman Clinton.
Here.
Councilman Chiarello.
I am here.
Deputy Mayor Blumenthal.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. All right, let's stand and salute the flag, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to start with just some approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the October 10th, 2023 regular meeting minutes as presented?
I make a motion that we approve the October 10th, 2023 minutes as presented.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. The minutes of October 10th, 2023 have been approved. May I have a motion to approve the October 24th, 2023 regular meeting minutes as presented?
A motion that we approve the October 24th, 2023 minutes as presented.
May I have a second?
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. The October 24th, 2023 minutes have been approved. Next up is our manager's report. Mr. Zepp, would you please give us the manager's report?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Sparta residents. Last week, Public Works staff removed two 10,000-gallon underground water tanks at the end of the cul-de-sac on Margaret Terrace. These were old water tanks used for fire protection. The fire protection is now provided by a fire hydrant installed at Nazarene Lane and Glen Road. This is the second of several locations to be cleaned up. This work was all done in-house, saving significant monies. Public Works staff installed the last of 5 historical markers located within the township at the First Presbyterian Church on Main Street. These markers were a part of a project that the Historical Society initiated 3 years ago. Recreation staff, Jean Montemarano, Director, Allison Dini, Program Coordinator, and Emily Fisher, Senior Citizen Program Coordinator, are attending the New Jersey Recreation and Parks Association Conference in Atlantic City this week. This conference allows them to stay certified and learn about current programs, trends, and to offer residents the safest programs possible. As a reminder, day camp at Camp Sacagawea registration opens to the residents on March 1st for 6-week sessions from July 1st to August 9th. Camp is open for children currently in kindergarten through 8th grade. The registration has been made easier as all post-registration paperwork can be submitted online. Library Director David Costa has been in discussions about the possibility of joining an expanded form of the Maine Alliance. Maine is a consortium of libraries, mostly in Morris and Hunterdon counties, that share an integrated library system. There are talks with the Maine, Somerset County, Warren County, Sussex County, and Sparta to join in the new ILS system that would serve those 5 counties. This is an exciting development that could improve library services to the residents in this large geographic area. As much as it appears spring is around the corner, temperatures will still drop overnight. The water utility would like to remind everyone to check your meters by making sure they are in heated locations to protect them from freezing during the cold temperatures. I would like to wish our longtime Animal Control Officer, Don Critchlow, a very happy birthday today. Chief McCarrick will now read his portion of the manager's report. This concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and Sparta residents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Zepp. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Just a few updates from the police department. As the manager said, this may be a little premature, but we have had some warm days this week. And with that, we're seeing a lot of pedestrians, cyclists out on the roadway. Just want to remind motorists to be careful when they're out there. If you need any safety information concerning passenger safety, cycling, pedestrian, you go to nhtsa.gov. That's the NHTSA website. Gives a lot of good information on there. Next month, our department will be hosting an all-county active shooter training. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to have, we talked about this before, is our shared services. We're going to have, open it up to any agency within the county to come out and train with us in reference to active shooters. So it's going to provide a good opportunity for our officers to engage with other officers, get to know them, not only on a training level, but a networking level. So when one of these officers is backing them up at a scene or something, they know what to expect. Additionally, in the future, I believe over the summer, we're planning a larger scale training with our Office of Emergency Management. We're going to invite, again, agencies from around the county and the county Office of Emergency Management to work in conjunction with the school on some of the similar training. So that'll be on a larger scale, but we're looking forward to do that. It's unfortunately that we have to do this, but it's ever so important and to get everybody on the same page. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Chief, just a question. Were you ever provided a copy of the threat assessment? I remember we had that group come in and do the threat assessment on the schools. Did you ever receive a copy of that?
This was done a few years
It
ago,
was a few
correct?
years ago, yeah.
I have not seen a copy of that.
All right. I'm going to make sure you get a copy of it. Just might be helpful in your training.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Chief. I mean, I don't have to remind anyone about how important that is. And I'm glad that the people of Sparta can feel safe, that they have one of the highest, best trained police forces. It is sad that we have to do that, but we have to do that. And so thank you for leading that effort. And anything that the town can do, please let us know.
Thank you.
Sure. May I have a motion to accept the manager's report?
I'll make a motion that we accept the manager's report.
May I have a second?
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The manager's report is approved. We are now at the public comment period. This period, though, is limited to items that are not on the agenda. So if you have something you want to talk about, take a look at the agenda. If it's on there, you got to hold off. This is our items that are not on the agenda. And yeah, please state your name and your address. And we do have, as you'll see, the clock here.
Hi, Dean Reinauer, 15 Birch Parkway, Sparta. It's really a question at some point, maybe the town manager can get back, and it's really pertaining to Lake Mohawk. I've lived here for over 40 years, and it really the question is a result of trying to develop some healthy lake policies. So the question was, many years ago, like 15 to 20 years ago, there was like a heat study done on septic tanks in the reservation, and it was a tool used to help develop part of the policy for the health of the lake that led to the development of septic system pumping through health records every 3 years. So since that time, and I was in a communications meeting, it was like, gee, not that we're looking to do anything like that, but how many septic systems may predate 1967? I remember Sparta Township saying that that was the magic number, that they had records, nothing before that. Because I'm figuring you have to have a permit, right, to pull, if you're having your septic tank replaced. There's approximately 2,700 homes, figuring hopefully maybe 85% of the homes have been redone. Just trying to figure out if there's a way that information could possibly be extracted, that there may be through the health records, that you could pull out and say, well, there's probably 250 homes that have not had anything done since 1980 or 1990. And it's just a way to work further in trying to protect our natural resources, the lake, the Wallkill, et cetera. And I was just hoping that maybe there was a way to get that information extracted through health records to the township, just for Lake Mohawk.
I believe that's what the county.
Yeah.
County's in charge of doing septic inspections, and anything septic related goes to the county.
Okay, so the extraction would be there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Dean also, he's absolutely correct, but up until everything went to the county, it was Sparta. So if you have any kind of issue
That's a good
with
point.
that, because there was a crossover, like
year
a
was that?
disconnect,
Do you remember?
That it went over
Yeah, that we
that the
gave
health
them-
department,
2000, 2007, somewhere around
So
there.
prior to that, do we still have the records prior to that?
Well, one is we would have given all the records to the
Over to the
county.
county.
Okay.
However, if they say that they don't have them, reach out to my office and we'll go through the boxes and filing cabinets we have. We're working on getting everything inventoried digitally to make it easier for everyone to do the searches, but I would start with the county.
Yeah, the good thing is, Dean, they did digitize all the records at the county, so
Okay.
it should be easy for them to
Okay,
locate.
thanks.
If not, there would be a construction permit either that would come through the town.
If there was construction work done. I
You
think
don't know if that
she's looking
included
for a
for-
septic survey
No.
or this heat
So, but-
study that you mentioned.
No, like you're looking at,
How many septic systems, say, haven't been replaced? Obviously, a permit has been pulled for everybody that's replaced them in the township, right? When Ernie Hofer was chairman formerly of the planning board and whatnot years ago, there was a guesstimate. There was maybe 250 homes left in the reservation that might have the old steel tanks. That heat study was done, which probably led to the whole development of the health policy going forward. Not so doing that again, it's just how many homes, are left, because you can see homes being replaced. Obviously, it's gonna come up with your realtors, right, if they're doing a thing. I was just thinking that Sparta might have that information on Excel, if you can do an extraction just for Lake Mohawk.
the problem is, they probably could tell you the homes that were worked on that have had their systems updated. The problem is, they couldn't tell you who didn't. Do you know what I'm saying? They could probably tell you who did, and then you guys would have to put it against your membership list or your addresses or something.
Right.
But they might be able to give you the reverse of it. But at least,
Yeah, that's
if you
something.
can't find it, just talk to Jim. Right?
Thank you.
It's like a cesspool, right, when they're in the steel tanks.
Again, just please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
No problem. My name is Brett Laguerra. I live at 16 Longview Road. I'd like to introduce my business partners, Josh and Karen, here, and kind of let them do most of the speaking for me.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Karen Garland and my son Josh. And Brett, we're here to discuss with you tonight the possibility of bringing cannabis to Sparta and how we could help you in that process. Just to give you, some background, we strongly believe in education, and educating the public is important. I'm a CPA. I have been for over 40 years, have my own accounting practice. Josh is a law school graduate. He was also part of the first class at Rutgers Law School last year for a business law and cannabis certificate program. We formed a consulting firm a couple of years ago to help other people in the industry to become educated, help start their businesses, and make sure everybody was in compliance with the state regulations. Josh can talk a little bit more about what he's
Yeah,
did.
in my time, I've been able to help some dispensaries open up, dealing with the CRC, dealing with all the regulatory compliance issues that they, sorry, the mic. Thank you. Helping these dispensaries with regulatory compliance issues they may run into with the CRC and getting them approved in their process. I've also worked at a medical dispensary and a recreational dispensary, helping to operate said stores, helping transition them from medical through adult use when that started back in 2021. And yeah, now we're just looking to start our own dispensary, ideally in a town like Sparta. I know Sparta means a lot to me, despite not living here. When I got laid off from my job back during the pandemic and moved back from California to New Jersey, Brett here, one of my best friends from childhood, known him about 20 years. I'm only 30. But he helped me get a job at the Mohawk House, helped me stay on my feet, and while I figured out what I wanted to do next, and that ended up being cannabis, and it was a great transition for me. And now we're just looking to essentially operate a store in a community like this.
Right. And one of the other things that we have done is, because we feel strongly about relationship building, and we have networked with a lot of different people in the state in different aspects of professions and operators, so that we have a network of resources that we can help pull from to help answer any kind of questions, alleviate any kind of concerns that, you may have as you're going through your decision-making process. So we just wanted to introduce ourselves and come and meet with you.
That's pretty much the long and short of it. We'd love to hear more about what the process would look like moving forward in the future, but we understand if you're not there yet, you're not there yet. So we just wanted to introduce ourselves and try to be a part of the process in some way, shape, or form.
No, thank you. I appreciate you coming out, and I think that will be an issue that the council will look at, when, I don't precisely know, but as you can imagine, it's a multi-step process, but we are interested in, stakeholders and people who have information about it to inform us, inform the public. I know the regulatory requirements are quite onerous and complex, and quite different than what some existing businesses are operating under now. And there's some safety concerns about that. And I think my understanding of those regulations is in part to address those safety concerns, right? And so that there is a lot more oversight, and a lot more protection, and I think the public needs to be made aware of that. So I appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we've assisted in the SOP writing process to make sure that everybody's in compliance with those regulations.
So, yeah, we totally agree with you. Any way, shape, or form we can help you out in that process, please let us know.
Okay.
I'll take that down one more level, and thanks for coming out here. So the council, I want to say, was about 4 years ago or 3 years ago or so, right when it was legalized in New Jersey through the New Jersey Constitution. The council took steps to change our land use laws to prohibit all cannabis operations. At the time, the decision was that even though Sparta residents had voted probably 2/3, I think 2 to 1
yeah.
to do this, at the time, the state regulations were not yet solidified. The council at the time didn't know what it was jumping into, and so they opted for caution. Now that the regulations have been approved and socialized, and we're seeing businesses pop up, we have had some discussions to start looking at that again. The process really does emanate from the planning board, who are our land use body in town. Even though their decisions are memorialized and approved by the council, land use changes usually bubble up from the planning board. And so the planning board, I can't speak for their schedule. The person who can is sitting in the room, but I won't speak for that person. So the planning board will at some point look to see what types of businesses and where and of how many. And so those, you don't just blanket, go ahead, Wild West. So we're going to make, if whenever those decisions come, they'll make measured decisions about, again, what types of businesses, how many, and where in town that might make sense.
We're familiar with that process as well. We've helped review ordinances for different towns and helped, guide them in some of the things that they need to think about in drafting ordinances.
Excellent. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay,
Planning board meets the first and third Wednesdays of the month.
thank you very
Here.
much.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public wishing to be heard on items that are not on the agenda? If so, please step forward.
Just before we move forward, could the three of you, our email addresses are posted online. Could you send us your contact information, please? Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on to the expenditures. Deputy Mayor, would you please read the expenditures for February 27th, 2024?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the expenditures of $8,490,305.60.
May I have a second?
I will second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The expenses of February 27th, 2024 are approved. We have no introduction of the ordinance. However, we do have a hearing of an ordinance. And so if the public wishes to be heard on this ordinance, do we read it first, or we want to have the public speak?
I think it has to.
What's that?
Yeah, you're going to want to have it read by title.
Okay, sure. Please read it. Thank you.
An ordinance of the Township of Sparta amending Chapter 12, Building and Housing of the Township Code by the creation of an article entitled Lead-Based Paint Hazard Inspection Requirements for Rental Dwellings.
Okay. Any member of the, may I have open to the public for comment. Anyone from the public wishing to be heard on ordinance 2402? All right, seeing no one, may I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2402?
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2402.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
May I have a roll call?
Councilman Hertzberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. All right, we now have our second public comment period, and this is limited to the resolution. So if you take a look at page, maybe page 4 in the agenda, you'll see the list of resolutions. So public comment would be limited to those resolutions. All right. See no one. I think we would like to carve out Resolution 3 and Resolution 6. And so may I have a motion to approve Resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-4, and 9-5?
I move that we approve resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-4, and 9-5.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So resolutions 9-1, 9-2, 9-4, and 9-5 have passed. Now, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-3, which is a resolution reauthorizing the Plan Endorsement Citizens Advisory Committee?
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 9-3.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
And before we take it for a vote, does anyone have any questions about Resolution 9-3?
I just
Yeah.
have a, oh, sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
The Dean and then Councilwoman Quinn, if that's okay.
Okay. So I would like to propose that we shorten one of the whereas paragraphs, and it's about the scope of the Plan Endorsement Advisory Committee. So it's on page 6. It's the third one up from the bottom. It's rather large. So I'm not saying we delete it, but I'm proposing that we cut out the second 2/3 of it. So basically, this is saying that the mayor may appoint one or more persons as citizens, et cetera. And then it says to assist or collaborate with the planning board in its duties, including adoption of an amendment to the master plan to guide the use of lands within the municipality in a manner which protects, et cetera, et cetera. So the Plan Endorsement Advisory Committee's primary purpose is not necessarily, or not to advise the master plan or the master plan subcommittee. It's specifically for the plan endorsement, state plan endorsement process. And for us, that's just the town center designation. So I feel that the second half of this paragraph implies that the Plan Endorsement Advisory Committee is actually meant to advise in the master plan review and any changes that are proposed from that. So what I would propose is that we just leave it at the first sentence or the first phrase, that the mayor may appoint one or more persons as a citizens advisory committee.
Responding to that, I'm looking at the other whereas clauses, and I don't see anywhere else that describes the scope of the committee other than that paragraph. And so that pretty much, I mean, unless I'm reading it wrong, seems to gut the scope of the committee. So I think there's going to be something in there that tells what the committee actually does.
I think it does earlier.
No,
Right.
it states why it was formed and the state rule that guides it, and the guidelines that the committee operates under according to the state planning rules. But it doesn't specifically stay, and this is what this committee does when the door is open and the gavel goes down. Except for that sentence, that it collaborates with the planning board and including, but so it doesn't mean it focused on, but including the amidst the master plan, land use, use of lands within the municipality, protecting the health and public safety.
But
I mean, this is the paragraph that describes the scope of the committee, I think.
I think if you look down further on page 7, the second half of page 7, I think addresses that, where it's now therefore be it resolved. After it speaks of the names, it does talk about the committee reports to whom, it'll report annually on this plan endorsement status, and then after that, it talks about what it does, right, at the end there,
Established for the purpose of.
guiding the plan endorsement process, increasing public awareness, serving liaison. So I think there it does hit, and it goes on to half of the next page, actually. All those bullet points, all the way up to therefore be it resolved. So my view, I think we're safe, but
What role does the planning board have with respect to the plan endorsement guidelines and state planning rules?
well, the Plan Endorsement Advisory Committee is reports up into, and won't make any decisions on its own. The planning board is where it brings its progress to, where it brings its draft recommendations to, and looks for the planning board to opine on it, react to it, and eventually also it comes to the council gets to take a look at it. So, and honestly, looking at the 6 members here, 4 of them are on this master plan subcommittee anyway, but I think we just want to be clear that it's a separate subcommittee. Because we now have a master plan subcommittee that has 14 members, including a group of citizens.
And what is it that the planning board is expecting of the plan endorsement committee?
As the plan endorsement process proceeds through the year on the town center designation, there's a visioning statement regarding the vision of Sparta, what it means. There is a municipal self-assessment. There is a recommendation around what the boundaries of the town center designation would be. So all those would come to the planning board once they're at the right place in the process.
Certainly what we're talking about here is an advisory committee, as the name states quite clearly. Actually, the language that is in that whereas clause does come directly from the statute. However, a municipality is not obligated to use it in that form. The municipality can use it however it deems appropriate. We do have a unique circumstance where, we've initiated a master plan review process, and we've established a committee to assist with that master plan. So, the council could conclude, well, now we're creating a duplicative process or a duplicative role of the committee. So you do have discretion.
Well, I'm sorry,
Articulate.
reacting to that, we might not always have a master plan subcommittee, and we might tomorrow decide we don't want one anymore. And so the way that I see this is all those things that this committee does will in effect be memorialized in our master plan at some, that's where our vision statement is memorialized, right? So even though right now, as we say, we have a master plan subcommittee, we might not have one tomorrow or 2 years from now or 10 years from now, but this committee could still exist.
It could. I would say probably the life of this committee is shorter than the master plan subcommittee, but it could be. It probably won't do harm if we leave it like this. If it's going to, I think it's expanding the scope a little bit. But like I said, at least for 2024, 4 of the 6 members that we're talking about tonight also sit on the master plan subcommittee. So I don't think it's worth
Okay.
spending too much time on.
One question I have, will the state plan endorsement, what role does that have in planning board's consideration of a master plan? Will it be part of that? Is it something that will go into your consideration?
I think what the town decides to do with the state plan endorsement, like whatever decisions are made, whatever actions are taken, would be roll up to and be considered for the master plan. For
Okay.
sure, it's not that it's a given or a direct plug and play, but it will inform.
Okay, because the reason why I asked that, I think you can save the sentence, because if you look at it, to assist or collaborate with the planning board and its there is referring to the planning board.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not referring to the state plan endorsement committee, it's referring to the planning board. And so I think what this sentence is simply describing is the duties of the planning board, of which the state plan endorsement, what you just said, will be part of the master plan consideration. So I think that the statement is probably accurate. It's just in the term that it used its. I think maybe, one person could read it, are you referring to the state plan endorsement or are you referring to the planning board? Here it's referring to the planning board. So I think we can save the sentence and still understand that simply what they are doing is doing what they're authorized as a 4055D27 advisory committee under the statute. So my recommendation would just be to keep it as is, and I think we can, move forward
Yeah, again, I understand that the work they do, the planning board obviously will see, and it could inform the planning board's activities, any of their activities, really, not just the master plan. So again, 4 of the 6 members this year are on both, so it's not a material difference. I think it would be clear without it, but it's not worth spending that much time on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to make a motion to amend it, you can, and then we can, or if not, then we can simply, have a vote on the resolution 9-3 as is.
No, I mean, if we could, want to leave the broader scope a little bit, that's fine. I don't think it's going to
Okay,
make a difference either way.
okay.
Yeah, I think it reads a little less clearly, but it won't really be detrimental to their work.
Okay. All right, well, why don't we then simply have a vote on,
I think,
oh, I'm sorry, Chris, I apologize.
That's okay. So I just wanted to add to what you both said, because I too think that if you just read this, it sounds like the PIAC is the planning board. And there's no guardrails that really say or qualify, and I understand this is a state statute. My problem with the way this is written is if you look at this, it looks like this PIAC committee is doing all of this. And the PIAC committee is put together around us going to the state to renew our town center status. That's what it is. And yes, that plays into all these different things. But if I were to just pick this up and read this, if I was a new member of the PIAC committee, let's say somebody gets put on there tomorrow and they pick this thing up, it looks unbelievably overwhelming to the responsibility, depth, scope, and whatnot. So if any update is made on this, I think there should be something added to clarify the guidelines of what this really is. And what this is a temporary committee that is put together through the process of us renewing or changing our town center designation. That's what it is. That's my understanding. I was the chair of this committee at one point, so I believe that's correct. And yes, what they do feeds into all this other stuff, but it's a temporary committee. It's not a permanent committee that's going to be doing all of this stuff. So if I was going to amend it at all, including what you guys just said, I'm building on that. I think there needs to be a very short thing added to it that just says, this is the scope. Personally, that's my 2 cents.
I don't disagree. I think it's huge. When you read it in its entirety, I think that comes through, but you have to read, it's not extremely clear, and I understand the language. I think probably it was we used a few years ago here. I mean, the old resolution is probably the exact same wording, except for the names, I believe, changed. And I think it's from the state. The only difference I do see is that it doesn't mention anything about authority, where the planning board has the authority. Again, I'm not sure if it's,
But the authority of the planning board is statutory. It's already established. We don't have to empower the planning board through this particular
no, I mean,
ordinance.
this does not have authority given to the PIAC, which I'm saying is correct. That's the difference between this and the planning board, but some of these overlapping
I'm sorry,
activities seem similar.
I think that the authority is spelled out in here. It says that it will report its findings to the State Planning Rules Committee and make a recommendation to the planning board, and so obviously it's in deference to the planning board, report to the governing body, so it also has deference to the council. I think the lines of hierarchy are here, and then it goes on for 9 different bullet points to establish the scope of what the committee is supposed to produce.
It has job responsibilities, if I use those words. So it explains what the committee is supposed to do, but it does not grant this subcommittee authority that the planning board has.
Yeah.
Right?
And
The
it
planning
does-
board has the authority to,
Right.
it has its own authority. It's built into the statutory board. A subcommittee does not have that authority,
Right.
which I think is
Correct.
correct.
It has no legal
Yeah.
authority. It's simply advisory.
Produce
Right.
papers.
Yeah, it's advisory.
Yeah, well, I don't think it needs to actually spell that out because it does reference the statute, and the statute's pretty explicit. It says, "But such person or person shall have no power to vote or take other action required of the board," and board there is referring to the planning board.
Yeah.
Such person or person shall serve at the pleasure of the mayor. So I think by reference to the actual statute in the resolution, it lets the reader know, if the reader decides to look it up, that this is simply an advisory committee. They have no power or authority to make a master plan, or they're simply advisory. So I think it would be superfluous to add another clause about what its authority is. By reference to the statute itself, you get that. So, and I get Councilwoman Quinn's point. I think the purposes are laid out on page probably 8 in your agenda, page 9 in mine, about what they do. I haven't heard whether any of that is inaccurate about what the committee does. And again, it's still within the ambit of, it's planning board's call. They could ignore, they could, take some, what the advisory committee says, or they could outright eject it or accept all of it. That's up to them. And I don't think there's anything here that would mislead anyone to think that they're going to be able to have certain authority on anything.
Well, this says one of the things they're supposed to do is negotiate a draft action plan with the Office of Smart Growth. Facilitate these visioning things. And then my other issue is on my page 7. I don't know what it is for you guys, but it also says, members of this committee shall be entitled to call to its assistance any personnel of any municipal department or consultant thereto, as it may require in order to perform its duties. So I think, we have, I think we just want to also set some ground rules so that we don't have 6 people reaching out to staff here also asking the same question to 6 different people or whatnot. I think that needs to be coordinated in some way.
On that last one, I'm comfortable that's coordinated, because we have the planning board chair is on there, I'm on there, and also we have the township planner from Harper Consultants, who's like kind of leading this process with us, so I'm not really too concerned about there being too much outreach
So
at once.
I'm just going to convey to
Yeah.
you, I don't want one committee to also overwhelm the staff. I think if it's cultivated through the planning board lead and the planner, that's fine, but I just want to caution everyone, let's be careful.
Actually, I think that's a good point. If you read that, I can call up the tax office, come to my meeting, and now you're going around the town manager to be able to, the way it's written very broadly, you're going to call to assist any personnel that you want. And I can summon the police chief, come to my next meeting, and it almost seems like this has power to do that.
I agree.
I would like to, I'll make a motion to strike that paragraph.
And where is this?
It's the
Page 7.
7, the first paragraph above the list of all the purposes, the scope bullet points. So the paragraph reads, "The Citizen Advisory Committee shall be entitled to call to its assistance any personnel of any municipal department or consultant thereto, as it may require in order to perform its duties." So I think, as Councilman Blumetti pointed out, the committee itself has a number of, has access to professional assistance when you just listed our planner and such. That paragraph that I just read seems to call out I can summon anybody to my
So
almost like a subpoena.
let me just say something. So this is something that the township wants to do. It's a very low-cost, low-lift effort. We all voted to do this. This has been going on for a couple of years. This is not going to be 1,000 hours of work, and we'd obviously work with, I'm involved, the chairman of the planning board's involved. We're not, this is not going to be chaotic. If it does, we adjust. I don't think we need to microanalyze the support that this small group that meets once a month is going to need over the next 6 to 9 months. Again, Christine, to your point, this is not a permanent, long-term, enormous lift.
But this is my problem. It doesn't give that in this anywhere.
But we
And I don't even see a reference in this whole thing to renewing our town center status. I don't even see that in here anywhere. And that's the whole purpose of it.
It doesn't really, it doesn't say town center only, but it does say plan endorsement, right? The state plan endorsement.
But it's a plan endorsement for the town center, right?
Yes.
It's to renew, because we're renewing, we're not starting. So my interpretation of this is this was put together for first-time boards that are doing it. We're renewing, so we're not applying for the first time. We're renewing what we have.
Yeah, it says, and the third paragraph to reauthorize, second paragraph to reauthorize it, so that's the renewal part. And as Councilman Blumenty said, it does say to obtain the plan endorsement. So I think the plan endorsement implies that it's the plan endorsement for the town center. And I think that could be further researched if you look at the state act that it refers to.
You also have a council liaison to this committee that certainly will guide this committee in terms of what it does and communicate and report back to the council to ensure it's on the right path. I would note that, yes, this authorizing resolution was the same one we adopted just over 2 years ago. And we have 2 years of experience with the committee to look back on as to whether you feel there have been any abuses or any off-track efforts made by that particular committee.
Yeah, that was my question was, I think we have to assume people will act like responsible adults who are on this committee and will not overwhelm the staff. This isn't the first time we've done this committee. I haven't heard any complaints from the staff that said this plan endorsement committee 2 years ago, we couldn't get them, they kept calling us, they, summon us at any moment's notice. So I don't think the language is necessary to be stricken in order to, we have responsible people in responsible positions who understand the scope of what our professionals have to do, what our staff has to do, and they will only call upon them as necessary, and we'll have a proper process in place so as not to overwhelm and to overburden the staff. I don't think we need to spell that out in a resolution. I think that that's kind of assumed. The people we have on this are, consummate professionals who will conduct themselves accordingly. So I think, and particularly if this is something that we've done 2 years ago, I think that, unless we can identify in these past 2 years, here's are the following problems that we had, and then our authorizing resolution should take notice of those problems and address them. I just haven't heard that. So my view of this is simply we should go forward and vote on the resolution as is, unless there's very explicit background of why we should change certain language based on past experience.
I would agree.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with what you just said. I do have a motion on the table that, and I still think that language is really broad and very strong. If you read it, it says the committee is entitled to hire any consultant that it wants in order to perform its duties. It almost sounds like it has nearly unlimited spending power in that respect as well. So I think the resolution, I agree with what we're saying. I think we've really beaten this thing to death over the last 15 minutes or so. But I still think that one paragraph, one sentence that I read is superfluous and unnecessary. And my motion's still on the table.
So Dan, I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have, the motion is to amend Resolution 9-3 to strike the paragraph that reads, "The Citizens Advisory Committee shall be entitled to call to its assistance any personnel of any municipal department or consultant thereto as it may require in order to perform its duties."
Just to be clear, if we strike this doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Correct.
Right? This can't work without staff help, without Harbor Consulting. So if we think that's the intention, let's just strike the whole thing. Striking this out does not change the fact that this committee of 6 volunteers, 2 of which are private citizens, can't do this on their own. So just to be clear, right, this is a township effort.
Well, of course,
So, yeah.
but the problem is we don't need to put it out there. This almost makes it seem like, hey, call everybody. Everybody call everybody. The questions and things should be coordinated and vetted through the professional that you're working with on this first, and the president of the planning, or the chair of the planning board. So I think the issue is, no one is saying that the committee should not be reaching out, but it should be reaching out in an organized fashion, reaching to they already have a professional working with them. So what this says is it's an open door. Anybody, call anyone you want. And my problem with this is I'm saying they have a professional. And to me, if they're going to reach out to various different members of staff, that should be a coordinated effort, not buckshot that everyone just starts calling everybody and people could be duplicating things and whatever. I would like to see that coordinated. If we need help from anyone in the township, no one's saying they shouldn't get it, but it should be coordinated through the professional and the planning board chair, not just open season with everyone.
I disagree. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I agree with the concept. This is not saying it. This is saying the committee. It's not saying all 6 members of the committee, whenever they want, for no reason, may contact anyone on short notice. This is
But it's
saying.
not,
Actually,
it's
it
not
actually
not
does
saying
say
This
that
is saying
either.
the committee shall be entitled to call to its assistance, right? So the committee are these 6 people listed here. I think it's micromanaging to say who on this has to contact them, or no one here can contact them. It has to be the planner. Like, I think we're micromanaging this. I mean, this is the committee. There was no problems 2 years ago. I don't think, right? You were on it. Didn't seem like there was issues. It's saying the committee shall be entitled. You want to add the word in the leadership of the Citizens Advisory
Well,
Committee?
you could amend that clause if you wanted to leave it in. The Citizen Advisory Committee shall be entitled to, and then insert request of the township manager, the assistance of any personnel of any municipal department, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
If you wanted to insert the township manager in there.
Except I believe that our professional planner does not need to always go through Jim, right? I mean, our attorneys, right, our professional planner can contact direct departments, right? So,
What I think we have on the table, that, I mean, I think this is a solution in search of a problem, which there hasn't been a problem. So why are we spending a lot of time on an unnecessary solution? But we have on the table right now, and we might as well vote on it, which is to amend Resolution 9-3 to stricken, the Citizens Advisory Committee shall be entitled to call to its assistance any personnel of any municipal department or consultant thereto as it may require in order to perform its duties. So may we have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
no.
Mayor Clark.
No. So Resolution 9-3 is amended. It's amended to, everything on 9-3 is included except for, and the following clause will be stricken, the Citizens Advisory Committee shall be entitled to call to its assistance any personnel of any municipal department, a consultant thereto, as it may require in order to perform its duties. And we have spoken that doesn't mean that the Citizens Advisory Committee shall not use assistance from the municipal department as necessary and under proper procedures.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We are now up to Resolution,
Do you want to
Actually, no,
vote
we have
on
to
it
vote
as
on it now.
amended?
and vote as amended.
Yep.
Okay, so may we have a
Can
roll?
I make a comment, though? I just want to say on the record, I hope we don't get into this level of minutia with every single, it's not even an ordinance, a resolution about micromanaging the activities of 6 people for something that has not been a problem in the past, that has a deputy mayor, a planning board chair, past planning board chair, another member of a statutory board, so that's 4, and 2 members of the public who are active here often. So I just hope we're not getting into micromanaging roles on subcommittees.
All due respect, Dean, you're the one that brought this up to change it.
Not this part.
No, not that part, but you
No.
brought up to change it.
Exactly. I still believe the other change was a little bit broad. You probably do too. But this seems like it's meaningless because the work has to happen, so. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so may we have a roll call vote on Resolution 9-3 as amended?
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
No, because I don't think it's necessary. I would have taken the original version. But Resolution 9-3 as amended passes. Now may I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-6?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Before we vote, any comments on Resolution 9-6?
Yes, I would just like to have a correction made to number 1 under therefore be it resolved. Didn't catch us earlier, but we have the term running for 10 months. March 1st to December 31st. But we have the total compensation not to exceed 12 months' worth of compensation. So I make a motion that we change that 19,800 to 16,500 to be consistent.
Well, I would just note that it's possible under the terms of the agreement with this individual that his services could exceed what's covered under the retainer, and therefore he could bill for more than the $1,650 in a given month.
How would that work? I thought it was a monthly set fee.
It is a monthly retainer, but I believe there are certain activities on his part that could go above and beyond
Yep, that's
the responsibilities under the contract.
And those compensable things would be under the agreement as referenced in the resolution, right? Because it says total compensation not to exceed 19,800, consistent with the proposal and the agreement to be executed between the parties. So that delta between 1,650 and 19,800 can only cover expenses that, or items that are identified in the agreement, right?
And it does limit how much he can go over that retainer. It does limit the township manager in terms of managing that relationship, that his services cannot exceed the 19.8. But under the contract itself, there are instances where he may be in a position to charge above the retainer. For example, attendance at, if I recall correctly, particular meetings that exceed the meetings that are defined within the contract itself.
Aren't his activities, though, they go well beyond just attending one meeting per month? That's my understanding, right?
That's correct.
So I think a few years ago, this contract was 1,000 a month or 1,200 a month. I'm not sure, one of those two. Now it's 1,650 per month. The 19.8 was 12 times
I think
1,650. Let me finish. 12 times 1,650 was 19.8. Now it's 10 times 1,650. I'm not sure why we're leaving more buffer in there and when we're already paying
Because we
a bit more.
desperately need help in economic development, because our town is being crushed. We have 30 open commercial real estate properties. We have the least amount of escrow in the last 20 years. We have zero economic development going on in this town. There's a potential $40 million school project coming up. There's an economic downturn. There's record inflation. You want to explain to the taxpayers why they're going to foot the entire bill, and it's going to be ridiculous. This is the help that we needed. Everyone that's been involved in this, in economic development will say this is the right decision.
Did I
You
say
wanna
it was the
nickel and
wrong
dime
decision?
somebody, then it's just insane.
I didn't say it was the wrong decision. Did I? I'm asking just so we have clarify and make
The
sure the
contract-
numbers match up.
My understanding, the contract was the exact same amount as it was in the prior year.
No, a couple years ago, it was either 1,000 a month or 1,200. I
Well,
looked it up.
that's the retainer is different than the overall, the cap on the expenses. The retainer is just a monthly, you get this regardless, and there's assumed number of responsibilities that you have. So that retainer kind of covers your bare minimum, but then you can bill over and above for other activities covered under the contract up to that cap. So the monthly retainer is at the same thing as an amortized version of your total cap. So the monthly retainer might have been different, but the total cap, I think, was the same.
Yeah, I think it may be helpful, rather than, engage in hyperbole about why this might be needed. What is this person doing and why do they need to be paid? I'm not disagreeing that they need to be paid. I think it might be helpful to the discussion if we say, what is this person doing and what are we compensating them for? And keep the discussion about that. So what is this person doing if someone knows?
I will explain that the main reason that he was brought in originally was years ago, somebody brought up in one of the Economic Development Committee meetings that other towns had a liaison, somebody that would walk businesses through the process. The process is extremely confusing, very convoluted. The forms don't explain anything. And some of the employees and board members involved don't want to be involved in that process. So they explained how other towns had a person that did that, and it was very successful, and businesses loved it. So it took us probably 2 years to be able to get somebody who really understood it and understood exactly what it took and knew all the people to talk to. And everybody that did business in this town thanked us for that. He did a phenomenal job. And it is one of the things that you can ask anybody who's been at these meetings. That's, if there's one thing everybody wanted back first, it was this guy to be able to do this job.
And this person has done this job in other towns? Is that right?
He's done it at the county level and other towns.
Okay.
And our town.
Yeah, and so he's one, he's experienced in this, and two, what has his been feedback about how this program went in other towns that implemented it? Was it successful?
Always positive.
Okay,
Yeah, think of him as an ombudsman, right? Someone who's there as advocate and hand-holding. You have a bunch of forms, and I'm trying to start a business. We talked about starting a cannabis business. It would be nice to have somebody hold your hand and walk you through the process. Here's what these forms mean, and here's some things you need to do. Anyway, and again, there's a line at some point you cross between what the townships, the municipalities' responsibility for helping you establish your business. And so I completely get that there's a line that where our township employees will say, I can help you, but I can't start your business for you. And you need that person there to be sort of that go-between, that to help you between your forms you got to fill out and actually getting your business working underneath the guidelines of what, we require here.
Actually,
So can
I fortunately had the contract with me, and I pulled it out. And I was just taking a look at it. There was discussion about some additional charges that he was going to make. And again, if Josh or the township manager had different discussions with him, I see the final language in the contract itself is, no fees or expenses shall be charged in excess of the $1,650 retainer each month. If that's the case, then it's 10 times $1,650, and to bring the resolution in conformance with the contract, which Grant is unsigned at the moment. It can be modified to 16,500. My recollection is that there was some pushback by the consultant that, hey, I could provide services above and beyond, but in looking at the language that came out of the last round of negotiations, no fees or expenses shall be charged in excess of $1,650 each month.
I mean, I would
Thank you.
rather the town manager be able to approve expenditures over that if there's a project that requires more time and attention. I don't know of any, but I would hate to handcuff his ability to do more work if needed at the town manager's,
Sure, and the township manager can come back to the council and ask for
it'd be kind of like
authority
a
to
change
exceed
order
the-
that we get when we're doing,
Yeah. Yep.
building, right?
It
would
can
simply
come back
be-
to the council, and the
Okay.
council can approve it.
But it's probably, would you advise that if we're going to have a resolution, it be consistent with the agreement to which it's referring?
Yes, so we're going to go through that process again of a motion to amend the resolution at enumerated paragraph number 1 to delete $19,800 and insert $16,500.
Okay, so having,
Did I get the math right there?
so having said that, if we later on update the contract to say, okay, well, because that language that's not what retainer is. Retainer is not like also a cap on your monthly expenses. In that case, it is. If that's, I don't know if that's what the consultant is expecting. It doesn't sound like from Councilman Hertzberg that that's the case. It looks like someone needs to go back and look at that contract again.
I'm looking at it. I think,
Well, we have, but
the
maybe they
author
have.
of, I mean, if he signs this contract, he's expecting to be paid $1,650 a
And that's
month.
it, and no more.
And no more.
I'd rather-
Now, that's based upon what the understanding of the relationship is at this time. In 3 months from now, there may be a special project that is above and beyond that indeed can be discussed with the township manager. The township manager can come back to the council and say, here's what the special project is, and the council can either approve or disapprove of exceeding the current agreement.
Why don't we handle it that way?
Is this money coming out of the EDC budget or the BDC or whatever it's called now? Is this money coming out of that budget?
I mean, technically.
That's my understanding.
I don't think they've ever had a budget that much, but
Oh, okay.
technically is being retained for that committee.
Because I also just want to bring to the table a couple other things about the importance of this position. Not only does it do every single thing that Councilman Hertzberg was saying, it also lightens the load on our staff, which most of which are brand new. He has the knowledge. He has more experience than most of our staff in that department at this time, no doubt. Also, it's a help to lighten the load on the planning board members who will now get forms filled out properly because somebody is sitting with them to help them walk through the process. So I think this helps the planning board, which are volunteers. It helps the site plan subcommittee, they're volunteers. It helps our staff, who we're paying for. And in many of these departments now, our entire land use, our engineer, our construction department, many of those employees are brand new. So I think that this position is unbelievably helpful outside of just what it will do for our businesses, but what it will also do for our planning board and what it will also do for our staff. So I think the 1650 is good. I think if I was looking at this, I would be looking at the additional funds as maybe if he has to attend something and pay for it. Why should he pay to attend that event out of his pocket? And again, I don't know I haven't seen the actual contract, but I would rather have that buffer and come in under and and just say, okay, well, anything outside of 1650, you can reimburse up to 19.8, but anything between 16.5 and 19.8 just has to be approved by the manager. This way, the money's at least there and we could put it in the budget.
Tom, could we approve this and then amend the contract to match?
Sure. Yeah, the council can do at this point whatever it wishes.
It sounds to me like we're adding in a buffer tonight because there was a delay. This didn't happen 2 weeks ago. Because 2 weeks ago, and the way this was written and agreed to, there was the $16.50 a month times 12. Now we're going to start March 1st, hopefully. $16.50 times 10 is $16,500. So, but now we're saying tonight we want to add in another $3,300 just in case. Why don't we deal with that later if it comes up? Let's just get going with this.
I'm not trying to add any buffer. What I'm saying is that we give the town manager the ability to increase it if necessary, at his discretion.
That's a buffer.
So let's just, move,
Remember, the town manager can come back to the council and just say, I need another $5,000 for some additional projects.
But the problem is, Tom, is that what's already happening is businesses are being delayed because things aren't getting done in town. And what I don't want, and we know that these, meetings are only happen so often. So if there's a project that he's involved in and now it's going longer, he's got to say, okay, now we got to stop, let's wait. See, and now he wouldn't do that. In all honesty, he would just do it for free. But
right.
I'm just saying, to
So I think what comes down to if the consultant's expecting $16.50 a month and that's his expectation, that's it, then we amend the top level amount as we discussed and we're fine. If the consultant's expecting, well, I get a retainer, but I'm allowed to bill up to $19.80, then we have an issue.
whatever. I mean,
So let's, I think the way, well, there's no harm in passing the resolution as is. It says not to exceed, so we know it won't exceed. So there's really no need to amend it, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's a cap.
Yeah.
19.8 is a cap.
Right, it could say 19 million, but it's
But
still.
the issue, right, Tom, is the
16.50 a
agreement
month.
doesn't say 19.8, right? So we have.
No, the agreement says that no fees or expenses shall be charged in excess of the $1,650 retainer each month.
Does 19,800 appear anywhere in the agreement?
No.
Oh, I think there's just no issue here.
Yeah, and it's a matter of having, just proper contract, processes in place. It's your view, Tom, that you should have consistency between the resolution and the terms of the contract that it refers to.
Yeah, again, emphasis on it's a resolution, not an ordinance, and
Okay.
you can come back, at a subsequent meeting to increase it if there's extenuating circumstances that warrant additional compensation.
Yeah, it would be my preference out of simple, just procedure, and that I would not want to set a precedent that we do by resolution what is not reflected in the agreement to which the resolution responds, because if you do it for here, then you could do it for something else. And then in light of that, if Mr. Drake believes that, hey, I have an additional work that I need to do, that's going to exceed the 1650, I hope he will bring it to the business development group, who will then bring it to us, and we can amend there. But I think just as a matter of protecting the integrity of what we do here, I think it's probably advisable, at least my view, is to try to keep it consistent with the agreement to which it refers. And because the agreement does not refer to a not-to-exceed clause, we would be simply almost amending the agreement via the resolution. And then now you have two documents. If there is ever a dispute, it would, which one controls? Well, the agreement controls. But then, not to get too down the field here, whether this resolution comes in as an interpretation of that final agreement may not even happen. There's a whole thing called the parole evidence rule, where you stick to the four corners of the agreement, not anything outside the agreement.
So can I just bring something up, Mayor, real quickly?
Sure.
If you do the calculation with the numbers between 19.8 and 16.5, I think I may understand why this is off. Because if you did 16.5 over 12 months, it's 19.8.
No, that's what Dean originally said.
No, but that's what I'm saying. If we go back to
That's where the
that,
number originally came from.
That's what we
right,
got.
so if we just go back to that, then, as being what it is, then let's just approve it for 16.5, because it's only going to be for this many months, and just get this over with so we can move forward in the right direction, start helping the staff, start helping the businesses, start helping the planning board. So I would move that we approve this, we modify it to be 16.5 in the second, so that the second to last sentence, I think it doesn't even have to be that. I think we just could end this whole thing after where it says December 31st, 2024. $16.50 per month for a period of 10 months unless sooner terminated, commencing on March 1st through December 31st, and take the whole rest of the thing right off. And then just approve it and move on. So I make a motion that oh no, there's already a motion on the floor. We already have a motion on the floor to approve as is.
So you need a motion to
There's a
amend.
motion to amend.
I'd made a motion to amend, initially.
Okay, so the motion to amend is on the table. It needs a second, right?
Well, there was already a first and a second on.
the
Yeah,
amendment?
so we now we just
Okay,
vote.
so now we're voting on the
Yeah.
amendment. So can you state the amendment again?
Sure. It's a motion to amend Resolution 9-6, so that rather than strictness, with the total compensation not to exceed 16,500, total consistent with the proposal and the agreement to be executed between the parties.
I think,
So we have a first, we have a second, and so we just need to why don't we do a roll call vote?
Councilman Hertzberg,
What are we voting on now? The amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
yes.
Councilman Chiarella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Park.
Yes. So Resolution 9-6 is amended so that the clause reads not to exceed 16,500, total consistent with the proposal and the agreement to be executed between the parties. So now we need to vote on Resolution 9-6 as amended. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-6 as amended?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
May I have a roll call vote?
Councilman Hertzberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Park.
Yes. Right. Resolution 9-6 has passed. We are now up to council liaison updates, and I'm going to start to my left with Councilwoman Quinn, if you're ready, because I know you are always very diligent with your updates. So,
My notebook.
yes, your notebook.
Senior Advisory Committee will be meeting in a few weeks. The Municipal Alliance meeting dates, as I mentioned, have all been set. We are meeting next week. I want to thank everybody in the community who supported and came out and put in applications for Hometown Hero banner campaign, the campaign this year. Vanessa Serrano and I will be running the report tomorrow. We're super excited about that. All in all, we have well over 300 applications, so we are very, very excited about that. So thank you, everybody. The Health Committee, there was a recommendation that was sent in to the manager about updating the code. So that's an action item that we're going to have to put on our next meeting agenda. Also, there was a mayor's meeting. I'm going to let the mayor talk about the mayor's part of it. But with regard to my role in that meeting, I also attended that meeting as president of the Sussex County League of Municipalities. It's very exciting. You heard us say at the last meeting that we're really excited to see and explore with the other municipalities, 24 total shared services, and really figure out what we can do with these state funds that are available for new shared services. So this was a big topic. I was able to go to the mayor's meeting this past weekend, which was held at the Hampton Diner, and working with the League of Municipalities, working with the county, and also working with the state, and the information that we have from the state. We are going to be hosting a series of working sessions for all the municipalities to identify and prioritize new shared services and look at how we can leverage state funding to get those shared services off the ground. So this is a huge benefit for citizens, communities. It can be an agreement, a shared service municipality to municipality or municipality to county. So this is very exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. So I'll be providing updates as we go forward. Next steps from the league side is we're going to be sending out a survey to all municipalities. We have data that we collected last year. We're going to be doing it again this year. And then we will start scheduling a series of working sessions. So more to come. And Neil, I will let you talk about the rest of it because you were there also. So from the mayor's side, that was just from the league
I
side.
don't think I can top that, but I will.
And that's those are my liaison updates.
Right, I was at the senior meeting last week. Mr. Costa was there giving a presentation about the library, which is a tremendous asset. It's one of those things that we take for granted here in Sparta, but it is one of the top libraries in the state, and they do such a fantastic job there. We're lucky to have them. I mean, some of the resources he brought up that I knew they had, and you just forget, but it really is an amazing resource. The other conversation that was had, as Chris, you know, that they always bring up housing because the seniors, especially those on fixed incomes, there's a long waiting list for anybody to get any kind of affordable housing in Sparta. And there's always this debate amongst people on, you know, there's a sense out there that any apartments will turn into ghettos, and all the seniors ask for is, when is there going to be some kind of affordable housing? And there's got to be some kind of meeting in the middle where we can do that. We talked about the economic climate going on. Some of them asked, is it time to move out of Sparta because of the affordability? What will happen with taxes? What will happen with school taxes? There's some real concern amongst that community and the other communities. What is going to happen? You know, I just touched on it. It's 5 years ago, and you know this, we were having the discussion of how do we bring people back to Sussex County because the population was dwindling. And, you know, back in the 90s, 2000s, there was a big housing boom in Sparta, and that really gave us a good tax boost. And Sam, you can talk to this probably better than I can. And then the last probably 8 years, we rode out, you know, no increases, but a big part of that was the influx of money from North Village, right? Well, now we have no influx. Now we have nothing. So you can keep smiling, Dash, but this is what's going to happen when you chase all the businesses out of Sparta. It's going to hit the taxpayers. All the taxpayers are going to feel the pain of what's happening now, and it's not going to be pretty, and everybody's worried. So, and then the Business Development Committee was the same discussion. The one thing that I will say, and I want to touch on because I think it's very positive, is some of the members there from the planning board were talking about reworking some of the application processes that the business have to go to that are very confusing and very convoluted. they've recognized that and they're working on it. And we're going to work together on the Business Development Committee with them to make these application processes a little easier and a little better for the businesses. And that's all I have.
Okay, I was also at the mayor's meeting. I think Councilwoman Quinn, she presented there, gave a fantastic presentation about the League of Municipalities, the work they want to do with shared services. As people know, shared services is a great way, as the name implies, you're sharing services and you're sharing costs. And when you do that, you can drive a more efficient service at a better cost. And I think it's kind of incumbent upon all municipalities to figure out ways that we can do that. Particularly Sparta can be the leader here because we are, as we probably everyone up here agrees, I will say the crown jewel of Sussex County. We have a lot of fantastic services that we can help out our brothers and sister towns in a way. And so it was a very good presentation. There was, I think Senator Space was there, Representative Ingemort was there. We had Commissioner Space, Commissioner DeGroot. And one thing that did come up, and this sort of ties into what Councilman Hertzberg said, and Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we were told that there are more people of Medicare age in the county than there are of people who have people of children's age. Like there's that many seniors that we have. So the point was there's a demand for housing, right? You have that demand. The issue is supply. And my view of it is we're up here to solve problems. That is a problem that we have, and we all have to figure out a way to do it in a way that's consistent with our land use laws, consistent with how we want to develop. But I think that, we're up here to solve problems, and that is definitely a problem. And Councilwoman Quinn has been, beating that drum for quite some time, deservedly so. So I hope that we can, sort of figure that out. Next, Councilwoman Quinn and I had our liaison meeting with Lake Mohawk. We're again doing this almost every month. The point is that, so Lake Mohawk, given that it's 2,700 homes, 2,900, yes, who's counting? That they, so that we can sort of address some issues that are coming down the pike with them that do affect the township. I did attend their Board of Trustees meeting yesterday, and so for purposes of everyone in the town, I think the most important issue is that the bridge. They have to repair that. That's the bridge that, on West Shore, right by what used to be where the spillway is, and across from, it's no longer there, Front Porch Organics. They're awaiting DEP approvals. Sabina had to determine that there were approvals required. That approval process, she hopes to expedite it, but DEP is slammed, doesn't have a lot of resources, and she's doing all she can to get that approval. But the approval process could be 3 months, and then you're tacking on probably another additional 3 months that the bridge will be closed for repairs. So we're looking, I think, August, I think is what they thought yesterday. Obviously, this is a bridge that's used by not only Lake Mohawk residents, but the entire community. So I thought that was important to bring to everyone's attention. And as developments warrant, I will continue to keep the public informed when I know about it at these meetings. Next up is I will get to under new business. We have had some applications for the cultural affairs, particularly people who are interested in getting Sparta designated as a film-ready community. I will cover that in new business. And so I will, we got some great applications, and I will speak about the people who have applied and then probably make a motion for have these folks appointed. But I'll get to that under unfinished and new business. And rec committee, when are we meeting next?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. So at the following meeting, I will report on that. And I'll let Dan handle the 250. He's done a lot of diligent work with them in keeping that committee on task. So I'll now pass it to Dean, and then hopefully you'll talk about 250.
Thanks, Neil.
Sure.
The Planning Board Master Plan Subcommittee, as I mentioned earlier, had its kickoff meeting last week. There are 14 members, including our professionals, and including some people here in the room, I see. So thank you for volunteering. The Plan Endorsement Advisory Committee will be meeting again next week for its second meeting of this year. Both of those committees are on a monthly schedule. The hearing for application 708, the continuation of the hearing actually for Fless Holdings, which is the multifamily building behind Burger King, was postponed at our last meeting and at the request of the applicant and being pushed out perhaps to March. And I wanted to finally just thank our planning board support employees, all of our planning and zoning office staff, and the other employees that are spend a lot of time in planning and zoning matters for their hard work, their dedication, and for the experience that they do bring in service of our township residents and businesses. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Chiarello.
Thank you. A couple of updates for the Revolution NJ 250 Committee. Our next meeting is on March 4th. We've been, as I reported before, we're gathering a lot of good ideas. Planning activities, we realize at some point we're going to need help with administering all those activities, but we're trying to pare them down and identify a group of stuff that would be fun for the town. But we have a grant deadline coming up on April 18th-ish. So right now, the committee is focused on which of these activities do we want to seek grant reimbursement for. We'll discuss that in our March 4th committee, and then again with the township manager and with our grant writer, and hopefully we'll bring some cool stuff to our town. Josh talked about business development. Environmental Commission met last week. They're planning a couple of events. One is a rain barrel workshop, partnering with AmeriCorps. That'll be Saturday, March 23rd, 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock here at the municipal building. There's another event on April 26th. There's a at the Sparta Glen. It's Arbor Day celebration that a number of the schools are participating in, or the environmental groups of the schools are participating in. It's a morning weekday event for the schools. April 26th. Don't remember what day of the week that is, but somebody look that up. It's a Friday. There you go, Friday. The commission continues to work on our sustainable Jersey certifications. So there's a number of activities and studies that they're undertaking to continue that our bronze certification, and perhaps look beyond that if we can. And I believe we recently appointed a student liaison. We approving the resolution 2 weeks ago. So I think the waiting period is ending in another week, and we'll hopefully, by the time the committee meets again, the commission meets again, that we'll have a student liaison join us. We did have one applicant. For the Culture and Arts Committee, Mayor Clark did talk about there's going to be a subcommittee of the Culture and Arts Committee, and actually the Culture and Arts Committee is itself on paper is a advisory board to the Recreation Committee. So there's now 3 levels removed from there. But anyway, the prime purpose or function of the committee right now is to hold our summer concert series. That committee will meet for the first time this year on March 5th to start planning out the events of the summer concert series. Councilman Hertzberg and I met with County Commissioners Space and DeGroot and Administrator Ron Tappan last week, I want to say it was. We talked about a number of things. It was a good meeting. We discussed shared services where they're appropriate, farmland protection, and business development grant money that might be available, and hopefully we'll make some good progress there as well. And unrelated, but sort of related, I mentioned a couple of times our sister city in Greece by the same name. I'm continuing to converse with actually the member of the Historical Society in Sparta, Greece, who is also elected to the council, to the governing council in Sparta. So we're planning on activities to form a network of all towns around the world named after Sparta, Greece, and I want to say there's like 40 of them, many of them in the United States, and so they're trying to create some kind of a network of Spartas We're continuing to lay out what their vision is, and hopefully have some good stuff later on in the year. And that's all my committee updates.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Chiarello. We are now up to new business, unfinished business. And before we get to the topic that's identified in the agenda, does anyone up here have any unfinished or new business that they need to address?
I do.
Okay.
But can I just say one thing with regard to our mayor meeting, that I was looking through my notes because I know I wrote down the numbers that you were talking about. But I did want to mention also, there was another topic that was brought up at that meeting, which is farmland preservation, which is a big deal. Because what's happening is, there's a lot of farmland in Sussex County. It's become almost impossible for farmers to be able to maintain it. It's very problematic with all of the different things. Councilman Hertzberg has been talking about this for a really long time, and he's right. So as a result, what happens is, if a farm family does not have a next generation that is willing to, or they cannot make money doing farming, what's happening is those big chunks of property are being sold for a profit, many times to a developer. That's just the way it's going right now, because farming is not being supported the way it needs to be supported to keep it sustainable. So there is, they gave a little talk about that, Neil, and I just thought that it's something that is not just specific to Sparta. It is running, it's all over the place, but I just wanted everyone to be aware that there was a discussion about that as well at the county level, and that the leadership at the county level is also looking, and I mentioned you many times, they all know you, but, that this is a real issue, that and we're unfortunately very limited in what we can do, because many of the mandates and the things that are making farming problematic, it falls way outside of what we're able to legislate and what we're able to do. So we'll keep everyone posted on that, but I know that that's a big deal. And I just wanted to make sure that we brought it up here before we moved on. Sorry.
Sure.
Let me build on that real quick. New Jersey has a structural problem in that regard, and that's just we're too small. You can't farm at scale and get the economies of scale like you can in Nebraska or South Dakota or Minnesota, where you have tons and tons of land and you can farm at scale. New Jersey just doesn't have that kind of space, and so it inherently makes farming more expensive, and that contributes to some of the issues that Councilwoman Quinn just discussed.
And I just want to add to that because, like you talked about, there are programs to relieve tax burdens on farms, but they come with, strings attached. New Jersey comes in and they said, hey, you don't have to pay your taxes, but plant these trees here, rip this down here, spray chemicals here, to the point where you were better off paying your taxes. And so it's a catch-22 in this state. And although you don't have the scale of economy, there's plenty of places where small farms still make it. And real estate properties and taxes in New Jersey just aren't one of them. And if the state isn't going to step in and allocate resources and funding for these farms, there won't be any more. They allocate a lot of funding for a lot of stuff that probably is not necessary, and farms aren't one of them. So you see where their priorities are, and it's not up here.
Yeah, I think that, we can look at the actual, it's a politically structural problem as well, right? New Jersey has a very urban density, and then we have pockets of rural areas. And so if you look at it, whereas in Nebraska, Kansas, the entire state is comprised of farms. So therefore, the legislature is comprised of people who are going to support farms. We don't have that in New Jersey. We have a few farms. They're located throughout the state, but they lack the same political power as people from urban districts, and that's just the reality. And so we're also dealing with that. I think that, if you talk to farmers, they to Councilman Hertzberg's point, there are things that may not be consistent with how you would actually farm, that the state puts on, and there's not enough political support to say, well, hey, wait a minute, this probably is not a good idea. If someone understands farming, you wouldn't do this. But they're not going to get the support of people who don't live in farmed areas. So I will identify, that is a structural political problem that exists. But as far as farmland preservation, is concerned. I'm a big supporter of that. I think that, it's been spoken about, it's been used in areas where there are developments of farmland that is at least inconsistent with what the town wants and what's inconsistent with what the people have expected. But it's a way to bridge that gap between getting the farmer the fair market value of their property, meaning what would a reasonable developer pay for this property, and then preserves it as a farm. So in that way, I look at it as both parties win. The town wins because it gets to keep the farm, it doesn't get the development that it doesn't want, and the owner walks away with fair market value. And so I know, speaking with Commissioner DeGroot, talking with people at the State Agricultural Redevelopment Authority, or they've used it to great effect. They are very interested in helping that, and I think it's a way that communities can have both parties win. So I'm glad that we are kind of leading the way in that in Sussex County. So any other, I will go ahead now, if it's okay, I'll, before we get to the short-term rentals, I know some folks may be here. We are going to discuss short-term rentals. If you have comments about the short-term rentals, you will be able to do that in the public comment period. So we're going to discuss it, right? And then at the comment period, if people from the public have something to say about it, you will have an opportunity, because the purpose of what we're doing tonight with respect to short-term rentals is we had a conversation on October 10th, 2023 about it. And it was also mentioned at the January 23rd meeting. The point is, we are trying to get input from the public. We take all that information and then we figure out where members of the council are, and so that we can be informed of it, and that sooner rather than later, we will introduce an ordinance. But the point is, we want that ordinance to reflect where, I guess, the majority of the council members are taking in input from the public. So you will get an opportunity to speak on that. So without further ado, why don't we start with the short-term rentals?
Well, aren't we doing new business?
Oh, we can, yeah, we're still in new business, but one of the new business items is short-term rentals, but I can,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so if we can go to that, and then at the end of that discussion, I'll do the appointments to the Cultural Affairs Committee.
Are
So,
we going to do our new business and then new business?
yes.
In other words, we're
Oh,
going to do
okay, I
our
got
new
you.
business
That's a
first?
good point. Has
then-
everyone finished their own new business?
No.
Okay.
So Councilman Hertzberg and myself went to Council Connect, which was held at the library. And we want to thank everybody that came out to the library to talk to us. We had some great conversations, a lot of great ideas, one of which I'm going to let Councilman Hertzberg bring up.
Oh, okay.
It's really exciting, and we were really excited to see members of the community coming up with and coming to these meetings with great ideas on how to beautify Sparta. So I'll let you do that,
Sure.
but hold on one sec. Let me get through the rest of it.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one thing. The other thing is, at our last meeting, or the meeting before, Councilman Hertzberg brought up the fact that we should really be looking at adopting and implementing solar-powered solutions so that in our pump stations. And it's very, very important, especially because we not only provide water to our community, but also other communities as well. And so in light of recent events and different things happening, I know that when we brought that up, our initial intention, when you said that, was to look at the solar that we have going on in our redevelopment. But at the very least, I would like to see us take a more aggressive approach to that. And I think that what you brought up is very important from a public health and safety perspective. And I would like to just bring this to the council, that I think what we need to do is definitely take a more aggressive approach, not wait for that redevelopment and see if we can roll it in, but start getting pricing and find out what something like that would be, so that in the event of any kind of failure, it would minimize the disruption, or at least, for the very least, allow water to keep being pumped in a safe manner to our residents. So I wanted to throw that out there.
If I can build
everyone-
on that real quick, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe all of our storage facilities, the water towers are interconnected. And so if we have a widespread outage and some pumps around the town are knocked out, I believe 40% of our water comes from the three or the four wells that are at the Germany Flats Aquifer, and those are supplied by solar right now. And so I think we do have a mechanism for being able to service the entire town. It might be at a diminished capacity.
Not solar.
Not
They're
solar.
not generators, but they have
There's
to be
fuel
filled with fuel.
generators,
Oh,
but
they are
not
fuel.
solar.
So,
Germany Flats has the solar array out there, and
But
that
it does not power.
supplements a lot of electricity required for those massive pumps out there in Germany Flats. The other pump houses do have generator backups, and you have your water tanks that, have the force of gravity. So you've got a pretty lengthy time to have consistent water supply until, it becomes a problem because you don't have power. We would study it, we really would, but right now, we're in pretty good shape. I don't think we've ever run out of water. We've always been pretty consistent because of the interconnections that you speak of. And a lot of those pumps houses all have generator backups that are frequently tested and maintained for that exact case.
But the solar array will not power that, is what you're saying.
No, I believe it
interesting.
supplements it because the energy it takes to drive those motors is tremendous.
Okay, all right, thanks. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
The other thing is, I sent to Roxanne and she sent it out to everybody, an invitation to the Sussex County Tribute to Women Luncheon, which is coming up in May. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it and respond, please do. Please respond to Roxanne because Jennifer Volz, the event coordinator, really would like to get a head count. So please make sure, check your inbox. I want to really thank the manager and whoever put all these brand-new chairs together, because it is so nice to sit on a chair where we're not having 2 feet on the floor, terrified we're going to fly out, and they're not clawed up. We have gone a long time without any new chairs up here, just to let everyone know. And it is really nice. So I know that not only did you order the chairs for us, thank you very much, but somebody put them all together. So
Yes,
please
the
thank them as well.
Building and Grounds Department of Public Works did that for us.
Okay.
I happened to be in the office when they came in and talked about it, and I thanked them.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
It's the little things that
Yes.
we really love. So with that said, I would like to turn it over. Oh, one other thing, sorry.
Sure.
Advertising positions that we have on all of our committees. I would like to see us, now that we have most of our committees filled, really take a look at the most effective way to do that. I think that we need to be more streamlined. It's very hard to get volunteers anyway, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. But I think we need to be very specific with our marketing and with the opportunities when we're looking for volunteers. So I would like to see us take a look at that now that, again, I know you're going to make a lot of appointments tonight, and that's fine. Our boards seem pretty whole right now. But before we get in a situation where we're looking for volunteers again, I know right now we're getting volunteer applications one by one by one by one in a PDF. This is ridiculous. It's the 21st century. We should not be getting them this way. We also need a better way of marketing. So the entire process needs to be, in my opinion, looked at and streamlined.
To that point, Chris, one of the things the Business Development Committee talked about is the necessity of getting all of these applications online, whether it's permitting applications. I mean,
We're working on it.
I know.
I'm aware of that, and it's on our list of things to address, and we've actually already started working on it. Fillable forms, the employment, we had to update them with the required language, so we took that opportunity to update and make them fillable and put them on, so we're getting there, and then having it all accessible on the website, so we're getting there.
Yeah, so more, it's the whole process, so thank you for that. But also, we need to look at what is the best way to advertise to get to people, to make people across all the community and all the demographics aware when we have opportunities for them to volunteer on the different boards. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you.
I know that was a lot, probably more than anyone wanted to hear, but there you go.
So while we were at the library doing the Council Connect, 2 women sat down with portfolios and very prepared to give us an entire presentation. And what they were talking about, and they were highlighting what a great job Newton has done of decorating their town with flowers and these flower pots. And being that that is what they do, I think they were horticulturalists. And they said that they would provide counsel and work if we would provide funding. And they said they would love to see Sparta beautify a little bit and add some of these around town. And, you know, I just can't think of any reason why we wouldn't, because it does look great in Newton, and they're doing a good job of decorating their town and helping the businesses be successful. And we thought maybe it'd be a good idea just to start on Main Street, test it out, see what it looks like, and go from there. And we have a whole proposal that I will turn over to Chris, and turn over to you.
So it's all about streetscape planters. Just in case anyone was wondering, when we say what Newton's doing, there's a lot going on in Newton right now. But they were able to leverage grant money to actually implement a streetscape planting initiative to beautify Main Street in Newton. If you've cut through there, it does look gorgeous. They're nice, big, huge, full planters. And so that's what this is.
And, you know, they said they would put the whole plan together and do a lot of the footwork. It's just, you know, they would need the labor and the money.
I think they said they're master gardeners. So we would like to thank Lorraine Tooley and Barbara Abida for coming and meeting with us and bringing this great idea forward. And Jim, we are now giving this to you to look into. There's pricing and all that kind of stuff. They did a great job of putting it all together, and their contact information is in there as well.
Very good.
Is that it, Chris?
That's it. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Anything else, Councilman Hertzberg? Sure. New business for me will be, as I mentioned at the previous meeting, that it's and after being involved in a film production that occurred in Sparta, it's filmed at Lake House Cafe. The movie is called Emerald Ties. It is now available on Amazon. And so if you want to check that out, it's a 15-minute short movie. Will give you an idea of why we've initiated this, getting Sparta to see if we can become a film-ready designation by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Again, this is a way to not only bring something that interests the public, but it really is a kind of economic shot in the arm for communities that have this. Just by way of example, there was a Pete Davidson film that was recently done in Denville. That one brought about $775,000 to that community, including a catering bill upwards to about $100,000. I've been speaking to other communities that have instituted this. I think in Hillsborough, they have done it. I've spoken, they have what's called a special project manager that oversees this. And the way it works is, the reason why other towns have been able to do this before Sussex County has is, the first step is you have to attend a meeting of the Film Commission where they kind of go through the process, they talk about it, they talk about the ordinances that are required. And so the first step in the process is actually for representatives of various communities to attend that. That's going to occur in April. I see Tammy's back there, and she's all over it. And so, the whole idea is get this committee started so we can have folks attend that. So, again, I think it's a fantastic project. When I announced this, we did get some applications in, and I will read that I will make a motion to appoint the following people to the Cultural Affairs Committee, and these folks will be specifically working on advising the town about getting the film-ready designation. The members that I would ask for appointment are one, Sean Landy. Mr. Landy has been involved in movie making since 2005. He's been a production assistant from various commercials and movies. Any relation? Maybe. The next is Joe Garcetti. People may recognize that name. He is the vice president of the Sparta Stage. Sparta Stage is right next to the EMS building, so he obviously has involvement in putting on plays and entertainment. Next is Joshua Nelson. He owns Acting Apart in Sparta. He's also an actor, a filmmaker with nearly 20 years in the entertainment business. He also runs the documentary film festival that has occurred in Sparta. Next is Angela DeLuca, who is, some probably know her as the librarian at Sparta High School, but she also has directed many play productions. And the final member is Mr. Robert Boyle. People probably know him as the owner of Planet Networks. But what I didn't know was he's also an accomplished movie producer. I think you can find his IMDb account. He's 3 or 4 movies that he's produced, and he's very excited about the program. So I will make a motion now to appoint to the Cultural Affairs Committee the following people: Sean Landy, Robert Boyle, Joe Garcetti, Joshua Nelson, and Angela DeLuca. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Robert Boyle.
She said that. That was the second person. He said.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm trying to write them all down.
Sure.
I'll second.
Okay, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Great, and we will get them started, but like I said, part of it is, a lot of this, the first step is attending the meeting in April. I also hope to have, at some point, a mayor of a town that has implemented this and been involved with it, so they can speak to council about their experience. So the idea is to get people to understand what this will involve, what it requires, and also generate enthusiasm and excitement for our business community. And with that, I have no further new business. Councilman Bloom? Yes.
Mayor, just as a form, just for organizational structure. So Councilman Chiarella was talking about one part of cultural affairs, which is concerts in the park. Now we have another part of cultural affairs that is Film Ready Sparta. So I would just make a recommendation just to keep it all straight, that instead of lumping it all together as cultural affairs, we have the cultural affairs, and then under it, we have these subcommittees. Because also we've talked about, for example, doing art in the park, and that really doesn't fall under either one of these things. So it allows us the flexibility to be able to grow and add additional subcommittees dependent on, the type of culture that they're looking at. So just food for thought. We don't have to do anything about it right now. I'd just like to make a recommendation to the council that I think it puts us in a better position moving forward, rather than just not to lump everyone together under one title, to break out just subcommittee by name, so it's a little clearer. And then we have the opportunity to add more as we go.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and maybe, Tom, we should talk about if we need to further delineate within cultural affairs the subcommittees, and have, if we have to do a separate authorizing resolution or something to kind of make it clear, here's cultural affairs, they're broken up into the following subcommittees. Concerts in the park, Film Ready, and then we can have a catch-all, because I think the idea of this committee was not just to sort of do, ad hoc, one thing. It was to improve the cultural experience of regardless of what that will be. But again, you can't necessarily mandate what volunteers will do. People come and volunteer, and they have a certain subject matter expertise. And the way it kind of works at the town level is, if you want to put concerts in the park, we're not going to stop you. That's a great thing. But what we don't want to do is say, well, we don't want to do concerts in the park. Why don't you do a community garden or something? They're like, well, I didn't sign up for a community garden. I signed up for concerts in the park. But I do think we need this committee to have people who are willing to do kind of brainstorming and a variety of things that can, improve the cultural experience of Sparta residents. And so I think it may require, we can talk, Tom, about how to, make it clear. I think Councilwoman Quinn makes a good point that if we are having these delineations within cultural affairs, we should probably have a resolution that reflects that, or some type of structure that reflects it, so people know. Also for purposes of the public, because, if they go on and see who are the members of the cultural affairs, they may contact someone and say, I want to talk to you about films, and the person says, I'm not the film guy, I'm the concert guy. So and they won't know who the concert guy is. So this will help the public, I think, if we can delineate. So I think that's a very good point. So with that,
I have breaking news. Anyone interested in breaking news?
Let's
Really
go.
great
Let's hear
breaking
it.
news,
All
new
right.
business. So the Sparta Unified team is just getting home now. They won the Tri-County basketball tournament tonight.
All
So
right.
congratulations to the Sparta Unified.
And just-
Sorry for the interruption, but
And
that's,
would you tell the public who the Sparta Unified team is? We know up here, but I don't know if everyone else
the
does.
Sparta Unified Team is, runs through Sparta High School. And it's a group of students that have different challenges and whatnot. And it's amazing. The program spans lots of different sports. It also has a lot of peer-to-peer interaction, student coaches, in addition to faculty and whatnot. So it's a great program all the way around. Could not be prouder of them. And I'm sorry for the interruption, but I really thought this was absolutely something worth sharing and just so proud of them. So great job, everybody in the Sparta Unified program. Congratulations.
Well, because you broke that news, I think you've also now broken new business, and I think new business is going to be, we're going to need a proclamation for these folks. So let's work on that at some point. I think it's a victory well worth proclaiming about. So with that, I'll kick it over to Councilman Blumetti for any new business.
No new business right now.
Okay.
Nothing
Councilman-
for me.
Okay. All right, that ends the unfinished new business by each council member. We do have a, new business that is for the entire council, which is the short-term rentals. And as I alluded to, we did speak about this October 10th, 2023, and also January 23rd. Again, the point is to kind of let council sort of vet what their views of it are, so that when we get time to actually getting the ordinance, we have an ordinance that will not reflect each individual member's preferences. That's just not the way it works, right? If we could, we'd have 5 separate ordinances. We're going to have to reach an agreement on something. And so the idea of having us talk about it is so we can figure out where the inflection points are on it, where there's point of agreement, where we can try to consolidate. That's just how making your laws work. No one gets everything that they want, but at least at the end of the day, we get some type of agreement. And I will say, and I know that Councilwoman Quinn has been, insistent on it, and she's right, which is, we're getting ready to enter the season when people want to look to these, and they're going to need some type of guidance. And so given the process, which requires us to introduce an ordinance, then another 2 weeks, we have the hearing on the ordinance, assuming it passes, we have another 20 days after the hearing, assuming it's approved, before it takes effect. That's going to put us pretty darn close to the busy summer season, busy spring season. So we need to get this done. And, let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Getting it done is better than doing nothing and simply talking about it. And so with that, we will talk about it, but eventually we're going to have to fish or cut bait on this. And I hope we can do it in the next 2 weeks. So with that,
Can I just make a comment? I think segue from that is the intent for tonight is primarily to hear right from the public, to make sure we have time for the public to share their views, to inform our views too, as opposed to 5 of us talking about it
Sure.
ad nauseum, right?
yeah, I mean, if I'm willing to take the desire of council, if the intent is we'd rather hear from the public, let's hear from the public. And then that may actually, what you hear from the public tonight may then inform your views, and then you can, let us know where you are. I'm willing to take at the pleasure of council what they would like to do.
I'd like to
think
hear
we do
from the
both.
public before we make our comments.
Sure,
Okay?
exactly.
Personally.
Okay. I think that, why don't we do that? If any member of the public would like to speak about short-term rentals, please step up to the mic, say your name and where you live, and we'd love to hear from you. Come on, Beth. You know you want to. And again, I think you can say what you need to say within 5 minutes, and I hope you'll do so. If you have questions, we're not going to answer the question in the middle of your speaking. We'll wait to the expiration of your 5 minutes, so as we don't take away from you. So go ahead, Beth.
I'm Beth Broderick, live on North Shore. I think I have concerns about Airbnbs and like the weekend or week-long rentals. I'm not opposed to a time frame where if a person's house burns down, they're having construction done on their house, or they were going to move to Sparta and their house isn't done, they need a month, 2 months, 3 months. I have no issue with that. The concern or one of the concerns that I have is when people are saying, hey, my house is on Airbnb, come spend the weekend, come up to the lake, come up to Sparta, and you have a house that can sleep technically 8 people, and all of a sudden you have 20 people, and you have God knows how many people out on the lawn doing God knows what. And I'm not saying that most people would, but you've got different people in and out of your neighborhood every weekend, every week. They're not respecting the personality of the community, the neighborhood, the people that live there full time. They're causing concerns, or they're disruptive, or they're not respectful. And in particular to Lake Mohawk, we have guidelines in place for things like you can't take the boat out if you don't have a license, things like that. And it's, well, I'm going to do whatever I want. And they're creating safety issues. Or even boats the size like with the lake and the roads and stuff like that. There are a lot of guidelines, and I'm concerned that if you're there for the weekend, the week, whatever, it's going to be a huge safety issue from a community standpoint, a lake standpoint, and believe it or not, I'm sorry, Chief, but a traffic standpoint and a privacy standpoint, but also from a town standpoint, not just Lake Mohawk. But we are not a travel destination. We are not LBI. We're not, the other vacation destinations. I don't know that we really need Airbnb, like the weekend rentals and stuff like that, to break up the community that Sparta is, or that the lake communities, even not just Lake Mohawk, but the other ones too. I think there's 23 lakes, maybe. I don't know where I pulled that number from, but it's going to change the dynamic, and it's going to break up why people move up to Sparta. And it's going to go from, I'm watching my time, sorry.
You're good.
It's going to go from a quiet community where everybody knows each other, whether you're here a year or like me, 45 years, and you know your neighbors, you know what's normal for your neighborhood. I mean, I know that the orange tabby that was running around in my front lawn today lives 2 roads down and is going to make a mess on my front yard and go home. I don't care, because the 2 that it chased are going to eat the chipmunks behind, and then they're going to go 3 doors down. I don't care. But if you have the guy that's cutting through your backyard because he thinks it's fun to just, do whatever he wants, it's going to be an issue. And I still have 1:41, but I don't have 1:41
You don't
today.
have to take the 5 minutes.
I'm not going to. That's all I got, but can
Okay.
I donate it to somebody else?
You're not allowed to donate, so,
Jenny, do you have anything for me to add? That's
Okay,
all I got.
thank you. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Beth.
Anyone else wishing to be heard about short-term rentals? Again, just please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bianca.
Hi, Bianca. Would you mind getting a little closer to the mic? Because we also have people listening in via computer.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Bianca. I have a house on Lake Mohawk that we also use as short-term rental. I grew up in Sparta. I graduated from Pope John High School, so I am a resident. I am a part of this community. I do hear what you're saying, but I also think there's another side to this coin that you're completely missing. Today in the meeting, we heard a lot about the economic of Sparta. We heard a lot about cultural affairs. So I think it's a beautiful thing that people from the outside are coming in and spending the weekend and spending money here. So I do think that's one thing that, we need to take a look at as well. In Lake Mohawk, I pay $600 a year for my short-term rental, and I do also have to follow certain guidelines. So I'm sorry you had an experience with a house with 20 people, but there's a specific number of people that we're allowed to have during our rental time. And we have all our information with the community. So if anything does go wrong, they have our information and contact us directly. So I am sorry that you had an issue. But, I do think we need to look at the other side of this as well.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Hi, I'm Perry Bonadies. I have an Airbnb in Sparta,
And I have a number of reasons why I did it. I mean, obviously, we heard tax reasons, tax benefits, what it brings into the town. There's no students, so you really have no strain on the school system because there's no students staying there for short term. There is a lack of lodging in this town. I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's a number of wedding venues up here. And there's a need for lodging. There's no hotels up here. They're very strict on, like Airbnb is very strict on parties and things like that. Plus, we have our own rules that we don't let people go on, big parties. We don't want parties. And we turn people away all the time. We don't want big weddings, parties, anything at at my Airbnbs anyway. We follow all the town rules. The reason why I did it is I had a neighbor that was a year-round neighbor, and I have police reports of all the noise complaints I had against the neighbor. And I actually had to buy his house. He wouldn't sell to me, so I had to have someone else buy it just to get rid of the neighbor. He was ruining my business. It was terrible. And the police were up there numerous times. And now, since the Airbnb's there, there's no police and there's no noise complaints. So that was my positive thing that I had to do. I had no reason, and I had to go that way. I have another house there also. I'm going to this house I spent probably almost $2 million on it. A lot of money came in. I used a lot of local vendors, people in town cleaning it, glass companies, whatever. All different places used that. I brought economic money into this town because of that Airbnb. And it's been up there for almost a year and a half, and I haven't had any negative complaints. I had a couple neighbors, he had to leave, but he was going to say, since we put it up, the one neighbor did tell me he thought it'd be a problem, but once he put it up, he goes, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I built a beautiful house. I'm sure you could see it. You drive by the road, you could see it slid up, whatever. And it's not like it's a dump. It's perfect. There's no issues with it. And like it says, we make sure we screen the people. We turn people away all the time because we want it to be kept nice. I have a manager that takes care of it, constantly goes and looks at it. So it determines if I'm going to build another one there or not. I mean, it's a private community, and I almost think a private community should vote on what they should do and have their own rules. I could see if there's town complaints and things like that, but there's not really complaints about it. Not to my knowledge. I checked with the police department, so I don't know. I think it's terrible that they would even consider not having, short-term rentals. As long as it's maintained, even if you tax us and things like that, other towns do that. They tax it, or they make sure you register and so forth, which I'm obviously be fine with, taxes and things like that. And obviously, like it says, it brings people into the area. I have tons of reviews. It's very positive. I have school teachers that use it instead of going to a local hotel, which there's no local hotels anyway, and business people. I'm not doing these big crazy parties with kids and this and that because I don't want that either. So that's one of the reasons why I had to buy it. And it turned out to be a positive thing. And we got a beautiful house on the property. And I'm going to build another one if all depends on what we do here. So hopefully you guys see the right thing and see my point of view. And, hopefully other people see it that way. And if there is a negative, you always have the police department that people could say, if something's going on, if they're parking illegal or something like that, you already have laws for parking and stuff like that. My community is private also. It's a private road. So it's not on a public area like that. But you do already have rules for the town for parking and things like that. So I don't know why you have to make another rule for it, except for maybe registering it or something like that. Just so you have an idea of what's out there. But it's not just a random thing. Airbnb is very strict. They have insurance, we have insurance, and I'm paying plenty of taxes for the house. So, and pretty much following all the rules that you guys set. So, I don't know what else I could tell you.
All right, thank you. I meant to ask this of Bianca, but I'll ask it of you because I think you're probably similarly aligned, which is what is your remedy against the tenant if the tenant does violate some of your orders? Do you have the ability to not only kick them out, but to, sorry for the legal term, disgorge, take their money, and,
Everybody
I think
has
the concern is the enforcement mechanism, which is how do we disincentivize people from acting up at these places?
So beforehand, if, on Airbnb, it rates the person. We rate the person that's coming in. And there's people that Airbnb says, listen, this guy's, he's been kicked out of other ones. Don't rent to him or be aware of what he's doing. So Airbnb already has that built in. And then we look at that, like everybody, like it's so easy. Everybody wants to do a wedding at the house. It's, so- because nobody wants to spend a lot of money on a wedding. They want to do weddings at the house, which would be great money. But we know not to do weddings because it'll ruin the place, the house. We don't want big people drinking and this and that, after parties. We do not want any of that. I don't allow people to do after parties. And it would be, it would be convenient if we could, but we don't allow that. And most Airbnb people do not, there's all forms on it, tells you how to run an Airbnb, and you don't want big parties because they'll trash your house. So like I said, it's built in already with the Airbnb thing.
Okay.
And we rate them just like they rate us.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Harry?
You're welcome.
Sorry, Mr. Last name, sorry.
Bonadies.
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 Just a question.
Yes.
What is the range of stays, durations that, and what's your average? What would you say the range is and what's the average?
I do 2-day minimums.
Okay.
But they're mostly 2 days. A lot of people want to do 1 day. I don't allow 1 day. I want 2 days.
2 days.
I have a professional company that comes in and cleans it. That's a local company. I have a girl that monitors it, answers all the emails. I pay her separately. So she depends on that extra money. She's a single mom. I have a cleaning company that, that does it, and other local people that I use to take care of the house. And like I said, believe me, my neighbors are very, I don't want to say they're crazy, but I had to spend a lot of money to clean up my area. And one's no, I'm gonna say whatever, but it's just, all right, my time's up, but anyway,
All right,
you got
thank
the
you.
point.
I have a question.
Sure.
For both, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do you guys provide people that are at you're both in private communities?
Correct.
So I'm just wondering, when guests come during the
Yes.
summer months, do you provide them with tags and beach access and all that kind of stuff?
Well, my property is on a lake that I partially own, and I do not let them use the lake.
Okay, so they come for the property
For
and
the
just
property alone,
that's it?
yes.
Okay, and how
No
about,
motorized vehicles, nothing like that.
okay,
So we don't have a beach, we don't have anything, but the lake, it's a beautiful lake there is, but I don't let them use the lake.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bonadies, are you related to an Emil Bonadies?
Yes, that's my brother.
Okay.
Which
tell-
one?
Tell him I said hello.
You
Dan.
know him?
Yes, if he worked at SiriusXM, then I know.
Oh, he did, he just retired.
Excellent.
Not too long ago.
Tell him I said hello.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to be heard? And again, just state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Rose Wang. I'm the resident of 25 Wilshire Drive.
And Rose, Rose, is that right? Yeah, if you could bring the mic a little bit closer, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So we visited Sparta like 3 years ago. We really fell in love with the place. And then about 2 years ago, we saw a property which is amazing. And then we fell in love with it. So we bought it about 2 years ago. And then when we bought it, we asked the town about the short-term rental, whether it's allowed. They said, it's we have no ordinance for it. So, we said that's okay. So because the tax and maintenance of the property is huge, so we thought, being able to Airbnb it could help to, take the burden a little bit. So that's also, part of the reason we bought it. It's a beautiful, beautiful property. So yeah, so we mostly we live there. It's like we're doing home share, just like rent out, like for some weekends in the summer, to take care of some of the taxes and etc. And yeah, we had a very good experience with the Airbnb, as Perry said. The platform was really good, and then we screen the guests. We have very strict policies, like we read the guest review. If it's like there was a little bit hint of bad behavior, we don't accept it. And then so far, all the guests, they have a very, how do you say, good experience, and we have good experiences with our guests. And also, our neighbors, they're very nice because we love the property ourselves. Trust me, as much as I love the neighborhood, we don't want the guests to trash our place, and also we don't want the guests to disturb the neighbors. So we have very strict rule on the Airbnb platform to make sure like they follow. And then we have the ADT outside screen camera to monitor. So far, everything has been going very well, And then as far as to help the local economy, I think it does a lot because all the guests we had here, and then they do catering, they go to the expensive, because it's a nice property, they go to very expensive restaurants. It's like we have quite a few returning guests from last year because they fell in love with the neighborhood. They thought, wow, it's so nice, they would want to come again. I think this made Sparta, kind of, how to say, it's like, and then I don't know what to say. It's just like, I think I have a very good experience. Guests had a good experience. We had no, complaints from the neighbors so far. Everything was good. So I thought it's a good thing for us, for visitors, and also for the town. So I just hope, because for the past couple of years, it's been confusing because when we bought the place, we were told there was no ordinance who could do it. And then last year, we received a letter from the zoning department saying, oh, you're going to fine us. It's a harsh letter. I guess a lot of the, hosts received a similar kind of letters too. Basically they say, oh, we are the law. If there's no ordinance, we tell you not to do it, you should not do it. So we have been like on a, eggshell for the past years. So I'm happy that the short-term rentals is an agenda items for the ordinance. So hopefully everybody will be happy with something.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your input. I appreciate it. Adam Horsfield, yes.
I really am short.
Well, you have a booming voice, so we'll be able to hear you.
Goes down further if you need it.
It's okay. They can hear me. Good evening, all. I'm Tammy Horsfield, for the record, President of the Sussex County Chamber of Commerce and the Destination Marketing Organization for Tourism for Sussex County. I need to make sure that you know that because we are a destination. Sussex County is truly a tourism destination, and I can say that.
Like LBI.
It's okay. And that's just a different side of the state, different end of the state. We are a tourism destination with over $500 million in Sussex County spent in 2022. So I think that's a pretty good investment. In regard to short-term rentals, I know a lot about Airbnbs and a lot of what happens within the short-term rental ordinances and such. And I say that because I work very closely with many people throughout the state of New Jersey in regard to short-term rentals. We are the fifth largest in regard to not just short-term rentals, but vacation homes for New Jersey. But and the reason for that is because we don't have any other lodging. That's the reality. We're very limited in what we have here to offer in regard to stay, whether it be for tourism or for business. We've had the same challenges. Some companies have actually had to build their own facilities in order to lodge their people. And looking at the short-term rental side of things, I would love to see us have the opportunity for Sparta to have short-term rental opportunities because I think it's critical to things that you talked about even tonight, the Film Commission and others. they need a place to stay. I'm going to say that in reality. Wedding venues. Look at the wedding venues in this community. There's nowhere for people to stay when they come for a wedding. And it's challenging. And our neighbors in surrounding states are reaping the benefits, the economic benefits of all of this, and we're not. We want to be able to do that. We want people to be able to come to our wedding venues and stay here and enjoy and have their weddings here and spend their dollars here and keep them here in our economy. So I do think that's important. And I know there's always going to be the concerns about neighbors and such. And I think if you really have to look at coming to compromises, there's opportunities for you to look at various things. You might look at where there might be opportunities for corporate companies that, or B&Bs, not B&Bs, wedding venues, like you just heard from Perry. Maybe there's an opportunity around those kinds of zones, if you will. It could be a corporate zone or a company zone, maybe within a certain distance around those areas. And then you might have some residential areas that are closer to downtown that don't affect so much residential areas. But I also want to say one other thing on the flip side of that are for those who might just might need, especially today, some of the extra funding to make it in the real world today. We have a lot of people, even in Sparta, that are homeless in this community. And many of it's because it's a matter of just that line where they just can't make it anymore. That little bit of revenue just might make a difference in somebody's lives in this community. So I ask you to carefully look at that, and I totally understand the residential concern about parties. You've got to go to work the next day and you have parties at the house. But I think, as you heard tonight, Airbnb and other organizations like that give you an opportunity to monitor that. I know I get monthly reports from Airbnb, and I know where all the Airbnbs are. And I know I get a lot of that data. I pay Airbnb for that information. It's called DNA,
Can I ask you?
Air DNA.
If the wish of council is to look at regulating rather than banning it altogether, being that you have experience in it, would you be able to give us some input in?
Absolutely, absolutely. And some neighboring counties do that. Others, of course, have just an open, they haven't really dealt with it. They've kind of just let it happen. But you can choose that. And I just think, rather than just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, you might just take a look at how you might benefit as well. Maybe there, and businesses might not like this, but maybe there's a fee that's involved that regulates it and try to keep you in place. But I think this is a great opportunity for you. If you want to be a tourism destination as well, you have to provide that kind of lodging. Heads and beds, that's where the money comes from. It's not just a visit. So with that, that's my insight. I'm happy to share, the experience that I do have related to that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yes, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
I have a question, if you may. So you mentioned that there is a need for housing, I'm sorry, not housing, that too, but short-term stays in Sussex County. Some of the reasons you mentioned were, we think we have 5 wedding places here in Sparta. And there's a lot of other reasons why, the lake, and there's a lot of reasons to stay. If there's a need, why don't we have hotels and bed and breakfast and places to stay in this area?
Because Wall Street sees black and white. I say that honestly. They don't understand the occupancy rates and how they work. They want week stays, and what usually happens during the week is there's less occupancy during the week. And so typically they would go out to larger companies and they would say, we want you to guarantee a block of rooms. These 50 rooms are going to be your rooms and you're going to pay that fee. We don't have the kind of companies that size to be able to do that. So we're at a disadvantage in regard to being able to get those hotels here to have occupancy rates to fulfill them during the week. The weekends are fine.
Let me just add, because
Sure.
Sparta Economic Development Committee actually did that study for Sparta before my time, but they said, and that's exactly what it was, the Monday through Friday stay rates were not high enough in Sparta that a hotel chain would come in.
That's the challenge. I mean, I sat with many, entities throughout the years, and that was the bottom line. If you can get us the companies, and I can only count them, not even on my hand, to buy into those, then we would think about coming, because that would cover their weekday stay. That's a challenge.
And thank you for that. And that's similar, that comports to what I've heard from other people in the industry. I don't know if there's an appetite for a 100, 200 unit hotel in Sparta anyway.
Yeah.
There might be an appetite for a
smaller
boutique place.
boutique, yeah.
But would a boutique place, why would a boutique place look at Sparta if they were competing against Airbnbs, or would they not even consider that?
Some of
because
them would, based on, and again, it's going to be based on the growth of the community in regard to everything from weddings to business. You know, if we can show a higher occupancy rate during the week, then that would encourage a hotel to come here. Hotels don't really necessarily see Airbnbs as their competition,
Okay, thank you.
in all fairness.
Tammy,
Any other
is there a township town nearby, relatively similar, that you think is doing it right? Any models you'd recommend we look at as we think through this?
You know what, I'd have to go back and look at my stats in my office. I do have some of that information to come back to you, but I certainly could get back to you with some of that.
I mean, Vernon, obviously.
Even outside the
Vernon
county,
is
but-
obvious one, but he was talking outside our area.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in our county, as long as it was relatively nearby, neighboring county, that was similar environment. It'd be great.
I will definitely get back to you with some of that information, and also some of the stats that we see, because like I said, we pay a monthly fee to Air DNA so that we can get that information. So I'd be happy to share it.
And I think just to piggyback on what Councilman Chiarello asked, I understand the economic necessity, the economics of hotels, but are the economics of a bed and breakfast the same? Which is my understanding of a bed and breakfast, they don't necessarily depend upon, for financial viability, the Monday through Thursday crowd. They can actually be financially viable on a Thursday to Sunday crowd.
A B&B.
So why is it that those haven't proliferated in Sussex County?
We do have some B&Bs, but it takes a lot to have a B&B. It's not just a commitment of B&B, you have to live that. It's a whole life. It's a lifestyle. You have to live there. Or you have to have a caretaker, which you're still investing in. I think it's different. And it's different kinds of people who go to those kinds of B&Bs versus an Airbnb.
Yeah, because if you take, for example, Cape May does obviously a very thriving.
Oh, yeah.
But there's not, there are some, I guess, on the outskirts, but if you go in the main town of Cape May, there are, those beautiful Victorians that are
The
7, 8
architecture.
rooms, right? And with the restaurant on the bottom that's open to the public.
Yeah.
And so I guess, the question would be, how come Sussex County can't, have its own version of Cape May here?
It's
and
called
have
investment, really.
Yeah.
That's all. It comes down to investment. It's a lot bigger than opening up your house for the week or the, wedding.
So, to put in economic terms, the barriers to entry for a bed and breakfast are higher than the barriers of entry to
Absolutely.
Okay, and that could,
Absolutely.
all right. Got you. All right, thank you very much.
right,
Anyone
thank you.
else wishing to be heard? Again, just state your name and,
My name's Dennis Chu, and that was actually my wife, so I'm not looking for double time, but just to add some more
you count
color
as a
here.
separate entity.
Oh, I do? Thank you. Well, I was also-
Tonight you do.
I also
When you
let
get
my wife go
home,
first. And
you're
let her
all one,
keep
all
it in
right?
peace.
So-
But just listening to the information provided by good Tammy here, I mean, we own 2 other Airbnbs in Sussex County, so I can give you that perspective. But one in the Hopatkin Borough and one in Jefferson. But we live in Sparta. Just going towards what you said earlier about being the jewel of the state. We agree with you. And the best house is there. That's why it's a beautiful property. But you're right. It was very insightful of your comments earlier that the clientele is different. A lakefront property will get the recreational and whatnot, but the houses in Sparta are so much nicer, and the town is nice, and there's a community. If you've gone through Hopatkin, you can tell. I mean, downtown's nice, but they're trying their best. But there's only so much base there around the lake. But
I grew up in a back on Sober.
I don't want to knock it. It's nice.
Don't be
in its own way.
hating
It's
on the
beautiful in the
back
summer, right? But for the rest, shoveling that snow is no fun. in Sparta, I'm actually happier doing it. And then we have one in Jefferson, and then they have their own set application procedures to make sure that the community is protected as well as the guests themselves too. And they have an inspection and whatnot, and it's a nice process. I think there could be something, if you are interested in reaching out to these neighboring communities and learning from their experience, I would encourage that. Because they do now have, a number of years of track record. And it is Sussex County too. But they've adopted these applicants. So in a way, they are and they aren't your competition. Because if you look at the houses here and the community here, there's no competition. For wedding venues, we've had clients both in the Hopatkin house and the Jefferson house, but the Sparta house is a different league. And you will get that different league of tourists coming in here, and they return. And like I said earlier, it's not one head, it's multiple heads, because the houses here are larger. And you'll get that wonderful experience, you'll have the seeds for the future. Because the folks that we don't allow weddings on the property, the property is large enough. Because toward Perry's comment, and that was great, we learned a lot tonight. Yeah, we always had that sense. When you have 50 or 100 people coming over, it's a mess. And especially the parking. So we only have people park within our gates. So we don't really want to take up any space on the roads, because I know in Hopatkin, that's a very big concern. You have a long driveway and they park on the driveway. Nobody out there, because you don't want to create a traffic problem. But the people are nice, because you look through the reviews, you make sure, because the biggest incentive is not to have your home trashed. Because if they trash your house, there's no way you can fix it. Yeah, Airbnb will say, and then you got to go through that long process to whatever. I've never gone through it, thankfully. But my wife, you can tell, is very gracious. She enjoys the karma that comes from the happiness that's created here. We've all gone through this 2-3 year pandemic. These families have been separated. They come from all over the country now. Because, New Jersey residents, they go to school, other places, but they come back. They need somewhere to meet. They don't want to meet in a hotel room or a motel room. They can't even find it here. So they find, a house large enough where they can keep the family together, and then create the memory, and then they can create a recurring memory when they come back. Because they still need to go meet up again, and they're not going to all move back together just because they spent one night in Sparta, but they will come for Thanksgiving or Christmas or someone else's wedding. So, I want to encourage you to see the future, the viral part of this, positive viral part. That's all.
Great,
That would be
thank
my
you.
comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to be heard on short-term rentals? And if not, well, there's also, this is a public comment on topics not having to do with short-term rentals either, so.
Okay, I have comments on both in and out of this topic.
Okay.
There are zoning rules for a purpose, and that is to protect the residents. So when we have rural residential zones, whichever they are, the expectation of the people that live in those zones is that it will be other residences, not businesses. And Josh, we had this conversation a few years ago when we were talking about sober homes and the issue of having businesses running out of homes where the business is the home, not if you have a home office, that's a different thing. But if the business is the home and there are people churning through, sure, there are maybe some great landlords who make sure that their tenants are what they're expected. But I had someone call me today to tell me about an issue that happened over on Douglas Drive a few years ago, where a house was being, and this is anecdotal, but a house was being used as an Airbnb, and someone came home and highly intoxicated and thought they were going into their Airbnb, and in fact were going into a residence, broke into the residence and terrified the people that live there. So that's not a what could happen, that did happen right here in Sparta. Surprised to hear that Bianca has an Airbnb in Lake Mohawk, because I thought their rules were nothing shorter than 3 months rental rules. Oh, okay. And even Jersey City has restrictions. Jersey City says you can only have 60 days total. that you rent out. And Elizabeth has also contemplated something similar, and there are other towns in the community, in the state, that have addressed it in similar fashion. I'm not against people making best use of their properties, but when people move here, moving into a rural residential zone, there's a reason for that. And to make use of somebody's home and give the benefit to the people who don't live here over the people who do live here is something that should be considered. I have a note that I need to check. My clock is still running, I get it. Switching gears to litigation, how is the funding going for the litigation for planning board? Do we know?
You want to get all your questions out first?
That's
and-
it.
Okay.
Oh, all of my questions? At the planning board, I did ask the planning board members to consider hiring litigation counsel above what they have in Mr. Collins. His experience as a qualified and good land use attorney notwithstanding, Diamond Chip has legal counsel that comes to planning board, and when they go to court, they have a litigator. The people who are suing Sparta, Mr. Dash is a litigator. He is represented in court. You have people who have different expertise, and I think it would be beneficial to Sparta to consider that. I know the planning board has its own rules, and there's a divide, but you guys pay the bills. And so I would think that there would be some.
No, actually, you guys pay the bills.
Exactly, thank you. And so I would hope there would be some conversation between the members of the boards. It is contemplated by the fact that members of the governing body, the town council, are on the planning board. And so it's contemplated that there's going to be conversation about issues that affect both. And this certainly affects both. A negative outcome in court would be catastrophic for Sparta, regardless of what you think of the people involved. Let's see. It was also, one more comment on the planning board. It was pretty disconcerting to be the one in the room to break the news about what happened at the county planning board. How did Sparta not know there was a hearing? Why wasn't someone from Sparta at the hearing? Diamond Chips certainly was represented at the hearing. And it was very surprising to know that nobody in the room at the planning board meeting, council, professionals, and volunteers, nobody knew that that was even happening, let alone what the outcome was. Thank you.
Jenny, it's not true we didn't know it was happening. We weren't there, but yeah, it wasn't news that that was happening.
Nobody knew what the outcome was, though.
That's my understanding, but I can't speak for the others.
I think she had a question about the litigation funding, so if we have an answer to that.
The same funding that we had in place from the emergencies last year is still there, so it's available to pay for any legal counsel fees or any other fees associated with the cases that are until we get an inkling that there would be additional fees over top of ones that are already possible. You know, we may have to do another emergency eventually to cover those fees. Once we were able to determine what they would be.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. And I think, to your point about litigation, not speaking of my profession, but I do take the point that there's a difference between a litigator and someone who doesn't. And so that I would hope, just speaking for myself, that is something that would be considered because, obviously, there's one party to it that does consider it a big-time litigation and have staffed it up accordingly. And so I think that that's something that should be considered. I hope I'm heartened to hear that the planning board was aware of what is happening at the county. I can tell you that it's incumbent upon a lawyer to know about satellite litigation that will affect any proceeding that they have. That's just part of your duty. And for what I do, we have to know, even though we may not be a party to the case, if that case can have an impact on ours, we follow it, we know what's going on with the docket, and that's really an important function of what a lawyer does. And I look at it no different than, say, an insurance company whose insured is involved in litigation. What the insurance company will do, although they're not a named party to the lawsuit, they will have people there monitoring the litigation so they can report back to the insurance company, hey, this litigation is going this way or another. So I think it is very important that if there is satellite litigation or if there's any proceeding at another agency that impacts something that the planning board is currently involved in, they should be well aware of it. And I'm glad to hear that hopefully they were.
Yeah, I would just reiterate my comment. So there was awareness that was happening at the county level. The county is different than Sparta's planning board, and Sparta's planning board does not stop or alter what it needs to do because of what's happening at the county, especially within a day or two of it happening, especially where we are right now with that specific land use application, which I will get into, but right now there's not an active, it's paused, and there's, as you know, multiple pieces of litigation happening. So the planning board just needs to proceed forward, even though that's happened. And I would just comment too that just because, I don't know if we should fully judge the representation, because we're being represented by a firm, not necessarily one person, and that doesn't mean that others in the firm aren't also contributing to that. So I don't know if it's fair to judge the skills. We'll leave it at that.
Okay, and I think it will be important for the public to know, and this is for planning board, but if there is satellite litigation or something at the county that could impact, at least the public needs to know either it does or doesn't have an impact, because the public's kind of confused. What does this mean? And the answer is doesn't mean anything. We plow ahead regardless, but they would appreciate some type of explanation. And that's just, people ask us, and I don't know, but that would be helpful to say, this is, the fact that this happened at this other county agency has or has not have an impact on what we do, and then be able to explain. You don't have to say what you're going to do, you just have to explain what it means to your proceeding, just so the public's informed.
I'll let that be more addressed at the planning board meeting. It's not really appropriate here. Just the one comment I will say is, as of right now, it has not affected what the planning board needs to be focused on and what to do. Right now, we're in the middle of litigation, and where that is in the process in terms of mandated mediation, there's no alternate course at this moment to avoid or ignore that requirement. So it's probably better addressed at the planning board.
Yeah, I think so too. I just say, keep the public informed as best you can within your, attorney-client duties and your deliberation duties, that's all. Any other member of the public wishing to be heard? Okay, seeing no one, we have now moved to the State Plan Endorsement Committee. You have this down, but I thought we appointed people already. I didn't, we don't need to do that. We've authorized it, we've appointed.
We want to know who was on there because of the person.
Oh, okay, got it. I don't need to do anything else with that. Okay.
Are we going to take comments from the dais about the short-term rentals or not at this time?
I don't. I'd rather, okay, yeah, it's gotten late, we've spoken about it before. I want to thank the members of the public who came in about this. I found it very enlightening and helpful. Thank you. I think that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for is folks. Yeah, and you have our email addresses, so you can, feel free between now and March 12th. Sooner is better than later. If you, get home tonight and you're like, what, I wish I would have said this. Go ahead and say it in an email. And if you have kind of backup documentation of stuff, certain things that, hey, I will tell you one thing that's particularly helpful for me, at least for my deciding process. is the vetting process that you have to go through Airbnb. And then if you violate something, what recourse do you have? Meaning, you can cut them off, but can you keep their money? Okay, yeah, and that kind of thing where you want to have a disincentivization to break the rules. And so it's become somewhat self-policing, because people don't like to lose their money. I think that, at least for me, I'm just being open what I'm kind of thinking of. So that would be very helpful. Thank you.
I got police reports because I had voice complaints against the neighbor. You would think it would be the other way around, having a wedding hall around the corner. No, I had a complaint against him. The neighbor was making more noise than the wedding hall.
Yeah, and if you want to do your own research, I can tell you if you have the type of data that says, if they've done studies that say, short-term rentals have a higher incidence of police involvement than residential on a kind of, you'd have to, on a per capita basis, or you know what I'm saying? Because you can't just do it overall, but you know what I'm saying is that if you have that kind of data, that's also going to be something that I think would be informative, at least to me. I can't speak to my other council members, but I know to me, that's something I'm interested in. Yeah.
Supporting me? I could submit that letter to you?
I have my other neighbor, but he had to leave his wife's sick.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's helpful too, which is, hi, I'm a neighbor, and my neighbor does short-term rentals, and they're actually better than my neighbor who lives there. So,
It's a good thing you guys came out tonight, because I think it was very insightful.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much, and y'all have a fantastic evening. All right.
Folks.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
And with that, I make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are
Second, by
adjourned.
the way.